After the male lead's partner lost memory, they became super clingy and even needed help going to the bathroom, wanting to stick with him every moment. He didn't want his partner to regain memory because this marriage was forced by him. Chang Jin met Lu Dao at 17, as the son of the richest man on Hera planet. He immediately pointed at Lu Dao and asked his father for him, but now he regrets it. Chang Jin went to the marriage office. By then, he was 25 and had been married for 7 years. He pushed open the door, and the staff greeted him happily. He responded politely and handed over a document. The document indicated that his spouse was Lu Dao. The staff confirmed with him if he wanted to dissolve the marriage with Lu Dao. He lowered his head and answered the staff very affirmatively. The staff asked Chang Jin why he wanted to dissolve the marriage, and Chang Jin explained with his head down that Lu Dao had no feelings for him. They had been married for 7 years, but the other party applied to go to the battlefield the day after the wedding. The time they spent meeting was pitifully short, and even though he got a special military accompaniment permit from the government, he was sent away after a day and a half. The staff felt that Chang Jin loved Lu Dao deeply, so they asked if he had tried to improve their relationship. Chang Jin immediately said he had tried, but the other party did not accept his affection and instead found it disgusting. The staff indicated that Lu Dao had never been to the marriage office before and comforted Chang Jin, saying it might be in Lu Dao's nature. Chang Jin, however, told the staff that Lu Dao would come tomorrow. He recalled how Lu Dao despised him and pushed him away. He explained to the staff that he received a video from Lu Dao a month ago. Lu Dao said he would return on the 23rd of this month and planned to take him somewhere, asking him to prepare in advance. The staff thought that Lu Dao might not necessarily be bringing him for a divorce. Chang Jin hugged himself sadly. He racked his brain but couldn't guess where Lu Dao would take him, thinking that only a divorce would align with Lu Dao's way of doing things. The staff reminded Chang Jin that he and Lu Dao didn't have a joint account, couldn't share assets, and with his father's bankruptcy, his account balance would fall below the standard line after the divorce. He would then be exiled to a second-class planet, and the staff suggested he communicate with Lu Dao again, hoping for a turnaround. Chang Jin, however, remained silent. He believed there would be no turnaround because Lu Dao didn't marry him willingly. Rather than waiting for Lu Dao to speak, he thought it might be better to initiate the divorce himself, perhaps leaving a good impression. Suddenly, a message came through on his light screen. Fei Li informed him that Lu Dao had been attacked by the Zerg, was seriously injured, and was undergoing emergency treatment. Chang Jin got up immediately in a panic, no longer caring about the divorce. At this moment, he and Fei Li were waiting outside the emergency room. Lu Dao was still in surgery. Soon, the indicator light of the operating room went off, and Chang Jin quickly stepped forward to inquire about Lu Dao's condition from the doctor. The doctor said that Lu Dao was out of life-threatening danger and would wake up soon. However, the venom had eroded his memory, meaning he would experience temporary amnesia, and his personality would change accordingly. It would take about 6 to 8 months to recover his memory and bodily functions, but his combat ability would not be affected. Chang Jin's mind was a bit muddled. He felt that this was heaven showing him mercy, giving him and Lu Dao more time together before the divorce. At this moment, Lu Dao had already woken up, surrounded by people. His grandmother tugged at his sleeve, somewhat relieved that he had finally woken up, but unexpectedly, the next second he directly moved his hand away. Fei Li helped him sit up, still warily looking at his grandmother. Lu Dao noticed Chang Jin standing behind Fei Li and politely greeted him, asking if they knew each other. Chang Jin was a bit confused, but Lu Dao smiled and even complimented him on his looks. Seeing this, Fei Li quickly introduced Chang Jin to Lu Dao, stating that Chang Jin was Lu Dao's partner and also introduced his own role as a secretary. The grandmother was Lu Dao's only living blood relative, and Lu Dao was the youngest general in the empire. Fei Li then suggested taking the grandmother back to rest, leaving Chang Jin to look after Lu Dao. Before leaving, the grandmother bluntly advised Chang Jin to give up any ulterior motives since Lu Dao would see through all disguises once he regained his memory. Chang Jin felt a mix of emotions but still politely assured the grandmother, telling her not to worry. He went ahead to pour some water, completely unaware that Lu Dao was watching him. Lu Dao stared at him intently but said nothing. Feeling a bit flustered under the gaze, Chang Jin blushed and asked if Lu Dao was thirsty and wanted some water. He handed the cup to Lu Dao, who smiled and thanked him. At the moment their hands touched, Chang Jin's heart skipped a beat. Chang Jin shyly lowered his head. By then, Lu Dao had already taken the cup, drinking the water in one go, looking quite satisfied. Chang Jin couldn't help but feel moved again, sighing that the other person still looked as good as ever drinking water. The other person drank all the water he poured and he asked if they felt uncomfortable. The other person stated they were in good health but still couldn't remember anything. Then, Lu Dao patted his thigh and asked Cheng Jin if he minded sitting on his lap. This action left the other person somewhat puzzled, but the other person obediently complied. He then asked if they were married, to which the other person shyly confirmed. Lu Dao asked Cheng Jin when they got married, and Cheng Jin obediently answered, 7 years ago. Lu Dao was somewhat surprised that they had been married for so long. He asked if they had children, but the word, children, ultimately wasn't spoken. He quickly recalled Fei Li mentioned that his grandmother was his only blood relative in the world, guessing they probably didn't have children. He asked them why they didn't have children, and they hesitated and explained that they didn't want children for the time being. Lu Dao immediately sensed that they were lying and asked why they were not in a hurry, which stunned them. Cheng Jin hurriedly made an excuse to change the subject, suggesting he would bring something for Lu Dao to eat and left in a rush, because he really didn't have the courage to tell Lu Dao about their past and the foolish things he had done. He fell in love with Lu Dao at first sight 7 years ago, and as soon as he confidently sent a letter, he was rejected. After being rejected, Cheng Jin was very angry. After all, as a tycoon's son, he could have anything he wanted. So, he used his financial power, but this only pushed Lu Dao further away. Lu Dao felt he was being bullied because of his power and expressed a strong dislike for his actions. But he still didn't give up, even if he couldn't win Lu Dao's heart. He wanted to have him as a person. Under the pressure from his father and brother, Lu Dao had no choice, and they successfully got married. However, Lu Dao still left him to join the battlefield. Only then did he realize that you can't force someone's heart. Cheng Jin brought 2 bowls of food. He silently made up his mind. Before the other regained his memory, he would take good care of him and not ask for anything else. When he opened the door, he found that the other had already gotten up. He quickly asked if his health was okay. Lu Dao had originally planned to be polite, but before he could say he was fine, he changed his mind. He immediately sat on the bed and said there was a problem, then cutely expressed his need to use the restroom. Cheng Jin blushed a bit but was more bewildered. Lu Dao crossed his arms and pitifully expressed that his limbs were weak and he couldn't support himself to go to the bathroom alone. Cheng Jin shyly held his arm and stammered that he would help him to the bathroom. Lu Dao directly put Cheng Jin's hand on his waist, reminding him to support his waist. Seeing Cheng Jin's shyly lowered head, Lu Dao felt a bit smug. Cheng Jin helped Lu Dao to the bathroom, reminded him he could go ahead, and planned to wait outside the door. Unexpectedly, Lu Dao grabbed him, asking him to wait, saying his arms were weak. Cheng Jin wasn't fooled. After all, Lu Dao had just grabbed him easily. But before he could finish speaking, Lu Dao leaned close to his ear, expressing he needed his help, and Cheng Jin hesitantly agreed. Seeing Cheng Jin's shy expression, Lu Dao couldn't help but be puzzled. He had been married to such a cute little wife for 7 years and they still had no children. He began to wonder if he wasn't quite capable in certain aspects. Lu Dao reminded Cheng Jin to hold on to him, and Cheng Jin shyly extended an arm towards him. He felt the urge to kiss him. Cheng Jin stole a glance and stammeringly asked Lu Dao if he was done. With a smile on his face, Lu Dao looked at him and said he was done, then put both hands on Cheng Jin's shoulders, leaving Cheng Jin a bit at a loss. Cheng Jin helped Lu Dao to bed and quietly said he was going to wash his hands. While washing his hands, Cheng Jin thought that the amnesiac Lu Dao didn't dislike him, and he hesitated whether to take the opportunity to repair their relationship, but he quickly dismissed this idea. After all, it was only 6 months, and he worried that once Lu Dao regained his memory after 6 months and learned about his actions, he would be disgusted to the point of wanting to vomit. By then, trying to leave a good impression on him would be even harder. Thinking of this, he clenched his fists, feeling that they would eventually divorce and separate, so it would be better to do it gracefully. After leaving the restroom, he immediately told Lu Dao he was going back first, while Lu Dao was still looking at the light screen in his hand. Hearing that he was leaving, Lu Dao looked up and asked if he wasn't staying there. He confirmed this and reminded Lu Dao to ring for the nurse if he felt any discomfort. The light screen in his hand was also convenient for contacting others. Lu Dao swiped twice on the light screen and found that his primary emergency contact wasn't Cheng Jin, so he asked Cheng Jin why. Cheng Jin just smiled and explained that they didn't contact each other often. Then he changed the topic, using the excuse of missing the last train to leave first. But Lu Dao grabbed Cheng Jin and asked why there wasn't a farewell kiss, which left Cheng Jin at a loss. He said, feeling wronged, that he had looked up how partners interact online, and a farewell kiss was one of them. Cheng Jin blushed with shyness, but felt a pang in his heart because a farewell kiss represents love, longing, and the hope of reunion. The old Lu Dao didn't have these feelings for him, and even the few times they kissed. He lowered his head, lifted Lu Dao's face, and prepared to kiss him. Although he knew the current Lu Dao wasn't the real Lu Dao, he still couldn't help but be moved. Lu Dao caught Cheng Jin by the neck and pulled him into his arms, kissing him until he was satisfied before letting go. Cheng Jin wiped his mouth, and Lu Dao asked if he didn't like it. Cheng Jin's face flushed with embarrassment, planning to beat a retreat as he left. Pondering why he felt unsettled, it was just not being accustomed to Lu Dao's behavior towards him. Lu Dao's recent initiative made his heart race. Covering his mouth, he ran away quickly. Cheng Jin fled because he had grown used to Lu Dao's indifference, so much so that when his father went bankrupt, he didn't dare seek Lu Dao's help. 2 years ago when his father went bankrupt, he humbly sought a job in the fashion basement, but Andy put on airs, indicating that even if there was a job, he might not be up to it and suggested he seek help from Lu Dao. Cheng Jin fell into deep thought. He felt that if Lu Dao heard about his family's bankruptcy, he might even applaud and take the opportunity to divorce him. Not wanting to leave Lu Dao, Cheng Jin sincerely expressed his willingness to learn and asked Andy to teach him. Andy reluctantly agreed but also reminded him that if he couldn't learn, he would have to leave. But he also reminded him that if he couldn't learn, he would have to leave. Cheng Jin immediately expressed his gratitude to Andy. Andy gestured for him to sit down while telling him not to be too formal. Cheng Jin nervously picked up the needle and began mending the clothes. Andy was guiding him from the side. However, before he even started sewing, he pricked his finger and blood immediately came out. Andy asked him what happened. While sucking the blood from his finger, he replied that it was nothing. Andy reminded him that when making real clothing accessories, he must not let any blood get on them, or it would all be ruined. He practiced his needlework even the next day. Although he was very focused, it was inevitable that his hands became full of pricks. His father fell ill and needed expensive treatment, and relying solely on his brother's work was too difficult. He knew he had to become independent as soon as possible to avoid becoming a burden on the family. After working tirelessly, he presented the sewn clothes to Andy, who approved of his work. The other party handed him a check for 1,000 yuan, which he accepted with hands covered in band-aids, and expressed his gratitude to Andy. Although it was only 8,000 yuan, Cheng Jin felt very happy. It was not only his first earnings but also meant a week's worth of medicine for his father. Cheng Jin hoped that his efforts would also change Lu Dao's view of him. At this moment, he stood at the hospital room door with a pot of soup, knocked with some anticipation. But the one who opened the door was a blonde man. He was dressed in a military uniform and looked very friendly. Cheng Jin couldn't help but be stunned and silently admired the man's beauty in his heart. The next second, Lu Dao's light cough made him realize he was being somewhat rude. He quickly apologized to the blonde man, who generously forgave Cheng Jin and revealed his identity. He was Lu Dao's subordinate, Ai Shui, and also Lu Dao's best partner. Lu Dao was also his lifesaver. Through this, Cheng Jin learned that Lu Dao was severely injured saving Ai Shui. Coupling this with the keyword, best partner, he immediately guessed that the other person was Lieutenant General Rieger. Ai Shui was also curious about Cheng Jin's identity but was interrupted before he could ask. The other party inquired if his full name was Ai Shui Rieger, to which he affirmed. Rieger was indeed his surname, one of the renowned native families on the imperial planet. Cheng Jin had seen many Rieger family members, who were all burly men with full beards, which is why he didn't mind his relationship with Lu Dao. But seeing Ai Shui looking so good, he immediately realized he was wrong and felt a bit disappointed. He quickly adjusted his mood and generously introduced his name and his status as Lu Dao's partner. Ai Shui said he already guessed his identity and pointed out that Lu Dao was becoming impatient because they had been talking for too long. Cheng Jin carried the soup over to Lu Dao, apologizing for the wait. Lu Dao blushed a little, feeling that indeed he had waited quite a while. He reached out and tugged on the corner of Cheng Jin's shirt, slightly aggrieved, complaining that he was late, then haughtily asked where the promised soup was. These little expressions made Cheng Jin's heart blossom, like opening the door to a new world. Ai Shui also didn't expect Lu Dao to show such expressions. Cheng Jin opened the lid of the thermos box, saying he brought the promised soup and that it could be drunk now. He then asked Ai Shui if he would like to try some. Seeing Lu Dao's protective stance over the food, Ai Shui quickly declined, but he soon came up with a bad idea. He smiled brightly and immediately changed his tune, saying he wanted to try the fish soup made by Cheng Jin. Lu Dao looked displeased and seemed very jealous. Not far away, the two were chatting and laughing. Cheng Jin handed the fish soup he prepared to Ai Shui, and also reminded her to be careful of the hot soup. Ai Shui immediately started drinking the soup, and Lu Dao also got to taste the soup he had been longing for. Both of them showed satisfied smiles, feeling that the fish soup tasted very good. Cheng Jin carefully asked Lu Dao if it really tasted good. Seeing him nod and affirm it, he felt relieved and looked at him with a smile while he drank the soup. Ai Shui finished the fish soup in one go and put down the bowl, planning to leave. After all, his general didn't really want him to stay there anymore. Chang Jin was somewhat at a loss, while Lu Dao gestured for him to leave quickly. Ai Shui mentioned that although Lu Dao doesn't remember him now, he finds Lu Dao cuter than before. Hearing the word cute, Chang Jin became a bit restless, suspecting that Ai Shui also liked Lu Dao. But his thoughts were soon interrupted by Ai Shui, who wanted to visit their home after Lu Dao was discharged. He immediately agreed. Ai Shui said goodbye to Chang Jin and also bid farewell to his good partner, saying he would visit again next time. Chang Jin happily cleaned up the bowls and utensils. Lu Dao stared at Chang Jin intently, asking why he agreed to let Ai Shui visit their home and questioning if he wanted to cheat. Chang Jin was so startled that the spoon in his hand fell to the ground. He immediately explained that he had no intention of cheating and that the person Ai Shui wanted to visit was not him. Lu Dao said he did not agree to Ai Shui's request. Chang Jin angrily continued tidying up, saying that it would be hard to refuse since the other person had asked. He also asked how Lu Dao knew the word cheating. Chang Jin thought that if someone had to cheat between them, it would definitely be Lu Dao. Lu Dao brought up the light screen, saying the doctor advised him to study more, and what he was reading was the empire's marriage laws, along with things about affairs and cheating. Chang Jin hadn't expected him to be interested in these topics and felt a bit embarrassed. Lu Dao smiled, thinking there might be things Chang Jin could teach him. He held Chang Jin's hand and said there were still many things he didn't understand. This indicates that he still has many unanswered questions. He hugged the other person again, saying he wanted to ask for advice. Chang Jin looked at Lu Dao somewhat shyly, but her heart was bursting with joy. On the day Lu Dao was discharged, Fei Li drove Chang Jin and Lu Dao back home. Chang Jin expressed her gratitude to him, and he said it was his duty. Chang Jin showed Lu Dao their house, which was allocated to them by the government after their marriage. Later, as Lu Dao's title was elevated, the house was expanded for free. At this moment, Fei Li suddenly stopped Chang Jin. He told her that Lu Dao had asked him to order a car 3 months ago, and it was a private car. This caught Chang Jin's attention. Because of his military rank, Lu Dao couldn't own a private car. He didn't know who the car was for. Fei Li said the car had arrived, but Lu Dao hadn't specified who it was for. He wanted to get Chang Jin's consent to temporarily keep the car at their house. Chang Jin cautiously asked Fei Li, wanting to know if he had someone in mind for the car. Chang Jin felt a bit disappointed as he entered the door with a heavy heart. Looking up, he saw Chang Cheng circling around Lu Dao, constantly expressing its longing and concern for him. Chang Cheng said that after hearing about Lu Dao's accident, it secretly cried twice and was very relieved that Lu Dao came back safely. Lu Dao asked Chang Jin if the robot's name was Chang Cheng. As Chang Cheng welcomed Chang Jin back, it explained that its previous owner had named it. Chang Jin squatted down, touched Chang Cheng's head, and thanked it. Lu Dao heard the previous owner and thought Chang Cheng was secondhand. Chang Jin explained that it was a wedding gift from his brother. Lu Dao felt that Chang Cheng talked a lot. Chang Jin couldn't help but laugh, explaining that Chang Cheng liked handsome guys and would talk more when he saw them. Lu Dao immediately leaned in and asked Chang Jin if he was being complimented for being handsome. Chang Jin shyly turned his face away, indicating it was true. Lu Dao was indeed very handsome. After Chang Cheng finished packing the luggage, he immediately sought praise from Lu Dao and then proudly stated that he had also tidied up their bedroom, inviting them to take a look. Lu Dao noticed that he and Chang Jin were sleeping in separate rooms and asked Chang Jin why. Chang Jin just lowered his head without explaining. Lu Dao asked Chang Jin if he was unwilling to sleep with him. Chang Jin was a bit at a loss, but soon thought of an excuse, saying they slept separately because he had a bad sleeping posture. Lu Dao was obviously not very satisfied with this excuse. Chang Jin, a bit embarrassed, said that he not only kicked the quilt but also snored and ground his teeth, and he was used to sleeping alone. Before he could finish speaking, Lu Dao reached out and touched his head, saying he didn't mind these behaviors. Chang Jin was surprised that the other party would touch his head and say such things. Lu Dao held Chang Jin's hand, reiterating that he didn't mind Chang Jin kicking the quilt, grinding his teeth, or even snoring. He told him word by word that he wanted to sleep with him and asked if he was unwilling. Chang Jin was a bit shy but overjoyed. He said he wasn't unwilling and went up to hug Lu Dao. How could he be unwilling for something he had dreamed of? Lu Dao was very satisfied with the bedroom. It was just as he imagined and looked very cozy. He casually picked up a small container and asked Chang Jin if it was a vase. Chang Jin shook his head and explained that it was just a small container for holding things, but only he knew that it once held a luminous pearl, which he sold to pay for his father's medical treatment. Lu Dao thought the container's shape was very special and asked where Chang Jin bought it. Chang Jin said he made it himself. Lu Dao was a bit surprised after hearing this. Cheng Jin, somewhat nervous, said that if Lu Dao needed scarves or gloves, he could knit those too. Unbeknownst to Cheng Jin, this action struck a chord with Lu Dao, who found him very adorable and gently touched his face. Lu Dao praised his skill, noting that people from the imperial planet rarely used handcrafted items. After saying this, he even gave Cheng Jin a kiss. Cheng Jin didn't expect Lu Dao to have researched this, but Lu Dao said it was just casual browsing, and then he embraced Cheng Jin's waist. Lu Dao touched Cheng Jin's face and asked if they hadn't been intimate before. Cheng Jin, a bit shy, still answered that they had been intimate before. Lu Dao moved closer with a smile and asked why Cheng Jin was nervous if that was the case, wondering if he was afraid of him. Cheng Jin was not afraid of Lu Dao. In his view, something more frightening would be if the person he loved didn't love him back and even despised him for many years. He proactively embraced Lu Dao, who felt that Cheng Jin indeed had experience and expressed a sense of familiarity and warmth with him. Lu Dao found it unsurprising, since Cheng Jin was his husband. Lu Dao scooped him up, indicating that he should fulfill his duties as a wife, then put him on the bed. Just as he was about to get intimate, he was stopped. Cheng Jin skillfully opened the drawer beside the bed and took out a box of condoms. He handed the condoms to his partner, who was somewhat confused, not understanding why contraception was necessary between partners. The reason they hadn't had children after 7 years of marriage was found. Cheng Jin felt that at his age of 25, he was still young and not in a hurry to have children. Lu Dao thought it was all an excuse, definitely because Cheng Jin didn't love him enough. This completely broke Cheng Jin's defenses, and he hugged Lu Dao, explaining that no one loved Lu Dao more than he did. Lu Dao touched Cheng Jin's head, asking if he was ready to have children, mentioning that he had an 8-month holiday and even suggested they should enjoy it. Holding Cheng Jin's face, Lu Dao said he could apply for more leave. He indicated that he could apply for another leave and once again asked the other person what they thought about the proposal of having a child. Cheng Jin held Lu Dao's hand, knowing that the reason the other person was saying this was entirely because they had lost their memory. If the other person regained their memory, they would definitely think that he had used tricks to seduce them. Agreeing to this proposal would only add to the suffering of a new life. With this thought, he buried his head in the other person's embrace, knowing that they didn't love him. But soon, he adjusted his mindset, smiling and telling the other person to wait a little longer, saying that when he's a year older, he won't be afraid anymore. The other person was very satisfied with this explanation and agreed readily, saying they would listen to him. Cheng Jin was suddenly grabbed by Lu Dao and laid onto the bed. The other person leaned over with a smile, looking at him without saying a word. He was a bit dazed when the other person suddenly looked serious, saying he used to be very bad. He hugged the other person tightly, saying they weren't bad, he just wasn't good enough. He then felt undeserving, not worthy of having a good relationship. Cheng Jin touched Lu Dao's cheek, telling him it was okay, he was ready. The two of them instantly fell in love, leaving a rabbit beside the river of love and chaos. The rabbit was struck by their deep affection, shedding tears of a single dog. At this moment, Cheng Jin blushed a little and signaled to dim the lights. The lights dimmed immediately, but this action made Lu Dao very displeased, who immediately had the lights turned up to full brightness. The light shone directly into his eyes, making it difficult for him to keep them open. The lines on his body were also clearly illuminated by the light. The other party asked somewhat angrily why he wouldn't let him see his face clearly. He tried to cover his face with his hand and explained that it was because the other party had previously refused to look at him. Lu Dao moved Cheng Jin's hand away and complained that he had been a jerk before. Cheng Jin didn't think Lu Dao was a jerk, but before he could finish his sentence, he was lifted up in a hug. The other party expressed that from now on, he wanted to take a good look at him every time. After saying that, he didn't forget to ask for his opinion. He immediately agreed. After some affection, Lu Dao was taking a shower, while Cheng Jin, holding his waist, turned on the light screen. He saw a box of children's fart-separating medicine, which required a balance of 15,000. He broke into a sweat, but considering that having a child would be unfair to the three of them, he gritted his teeth and still clicked to buy. At this moment, the bathroom door made a noise, scaring him into quickly turning off the light screen. Lu Dao had finished showering and came out. Although he was wearing a bathrobe, one could still vaguely see his very resilient physique. He asked Cheng Jin if he was tired while lifting the blanket. Although Cheng Jin didn't say a word, he vigorously shook his head and then dived into his arms, indicating he wanted to talk a little more with him. At this moment, Lu Dao suddenly mentioned he had a question he had been curious about for a long time. He quickly asked Cheng Jin how they first met. This question immediately made Cheng Jin sweat profusely. This time, Cheng Jin didn't plan to make up another excuse. Instead, he directly told Lu Dao that once his memory returns, he would remember everything. But Lu Dao didn't accept this explanation. He wanted to know right away. Cheng Jin felt a bit disappointed and could only explain that at that time, Lu Dao was still a student at the main military academy, and he was just an ordinary high school student. The main academy arranged regular relaxation days for students each month, allowing external students to enter and play. One time, a classmate took him inside, coinciding with a basketball game, and Lu Dao was one of the players. The classmate was using binoculars to watch Lu Dao and praised him, saying Lu Dao not only excelled in academics but also had great physical fitness. He was a key development target for the school. After saying this, the classmate couldn't help but admire Lu Dao's looks, which sparked Cheng Jin's interest, prompting him to take a closer look. However, they were too far from the court to see clearly, so he borrowed the binoculars from his classmate. The classmate reminded him it was half-time, so there might not be much to see, but he still found Lu Dao. Through the binoculars, he saw Lu Dao drinking water, sweat dripping from his cheeks to his neck. Lu Dao wiped his sweat with a towel, and just these small actions were enough to make his heart race and face flush. Hearing this, Lu Dao concluded that Cheng Jin must have fallen in love with him at first sight. He eagerly wanted to know what happened next and asked Cheng Jin if he pursued him actively, and then Lu Dao fell in love with him at first sight too, leading to them quickly falling in love and getting married right after graduation. Seeing Lu Dao, Cheng Jin couldn't help but imagine a whole novel. He felt somewhat distressed, not understanding why the other party would think that way. In the aquarium, Lu Dao propped his chin, indicating he found Cheng Jin very cute. Cheng Jin felt flattered and wanted to confirm again if the other party really thought that way, but instead, he was asked about the plot development. He could only make up a reason, explaining that Lu Dao had rejected him initially, perhaps thinking he was too young. He caressed Lu Dao's cheek, explaining that it was only after his persistent pursuit that the other party accepted his feelings. But he knew it was because his family threatened Lu Dao with his grandmother's surgery that he agreed to marry him. This also led to his grandmother only being able to use a wheelchair after the surgery. Lu Dao asked him if he felt aggrieved. He immediately denied it, although he now realized his mistake. He could no longer make amends. Lu Dao moved closer, feeling that the other party wasn't telling the truth, his eyes clearly red. He didn't understand why the other party loved to cry so much. Then he embraced him, feeling somewhat heartbroken as the other cried. He touched his forehead to the other's, making the other feel a bit distressed. He looked at him, not only calling him baby, but also saying he was the best. While pinching his chin, they quickly fell back in love. At this moment, Cheng Jin, while yawning, asked Lu Dao if there were guests at home. Lu Dao, propping his chin, casually explained they were colleagues visiting to check on the patient, catching Cheng Jin's attention. Cheng Jin's attention was quickly drawn to the grapes on the table. He happily picked up a grape and found it to be the particularly delicious honey grape. Lu Dao asked if he liked it. He raised a peeled grape, intending for Lu Dao to taste it, and remarked that the flavor was really good. Lu Dao ate the grape Cheng Jin fed him and was asked if the taste was good. He licked Cheng Jin's fingers and softly replied with an Cheng Jin cautiously asked Lu Dao if he could take some for his father. Lu Dao immediately agreed and suggested going with him to visit the hospital. Cheng Jin felt flattered, as he hadn't expected Lu Dao to accompany him on the visit. Lu Dao, however, thought visiting the hospital was a normal courtesy. Especially since it was his wife's father, he felt obligated to visit. Cheng Jin waved his hand, indicating that his father's condition had stabilized, and reminded Lu Dao to rest well at home. He planned to go alone, mentioning that Fei Li had lent him a new car, making it convenient for him to go. Lu Dao stared at Cheng Jin, feeling that something was off. He suspected Cheng Jin was trying hard to stop him because he was going to see an ex-boyfriend. Cheng Jin quickly waved his hands in denial, insisting he had no ex-boyfriend. Lu Dao stepped forward, grabbed Cheng Jin's hand, and said that since there was no ex-boyfriend, he should let him visit the hospital. Cheng Jin guessed that after Lu Dao regained his memory, he wouldn't mind this matter, so he agreed. By then, Lu Dao had already changed clothes and was waiting outside. Cheng Jin saw the vehicle behind him. He felt the car matched his aesthetic perfectly, but unfortunately, it wasn't for him. Lu Dao took the things he needed to bring from Cheng Jin's hand. He reminded him to get in the car. Soon, the car lights came on, and they drove away from the villa. Cheng Jin introduced various vehicles on the road to Lu Dao, such as some small ships. He mentioned a building not far away. Although it was called the World Trade Center, he spoke enthusiastically about it, while the other person just quietly listened to him. Suddenly, Lu Dao wrapped his arm around Cheng Jin's waist, pulling him into his embrace, and praised him with a smile for knowing so much. The compliment made Cheng Jin a bit self-conscious and he stammered, saying it wasn't true. Cheng Jin looked up and realized they had already arrived at the hospital. Lu Dao thought the hospital environment looked pretty good, and Chang Jin agreed, considering the price. Chang Jin's father was sitting on the hospital bed reading a book when Chang Jin suddenly pushed the door open and entered. His father happily introduced Lu Dao to him. Lu Dao stood there holding things, looking very proper. He looked at Chang Jin's father. Although he had no memory, he instinctively felt uneasy, sensing that his relationship with Chang Jin's father wasn't good before. He stared at Chang Jin, making him feel a bit guilty, and he averted his gaze elsewhere. Lu Dao wanted to call Chang Jin's father, Dad, but the word felt awkward in his mouth and he couldn't say it. Chang Jin reminded him that he didn't have to call him Dad, as he used to call him Mr. Chang. Only then did Lu Dao breathe a sigh of relief and called him Mr. Chang. Chang Jin's father chuckled softly, realizing that Lu Dao truly had amnesia, otherwise he wouldn't have come to see him. Chang Jin squatted by his bed, asking about his condition today. He said he was fine but noticed Chang Jin looked thinner, suspecting he hadn't been eating well lately. Chang Jin smiled at his father, saying he had been eating well and even gained some weight recently. Suddenly, he remembered he had brought grapes for him, and turned to take them out of the bag Lu Dao was holding. The other party was very happy to see the honey grapes he brought. Chang Jin's side looked very harmonious and warm, like a father and son. Lu Dao felt a bit jealous of Chang Jin's father. He didn't expect Chang Jin to smile so happily at someone else. Chang Jin's father, with a smile on his face, said there was no tea to serve the guest, so he asked Chang Jin to go outside and get a cup of hot water for Lu Dao. Chang Jin happily went out with the cup. Seeing Chang Jin leave, Lu Dao asked Chang Jin's father if there was anything he wanted to say to him alone. The other party expressed that besides hoping he could take good care of Chang Jin, there were no other requests. He also mentioned that they hadn't seen each other for 7 years. When the incident first happened, the other party hoped he could help the Chang family, but he ignored it. Lu Dao explained that he couldn't help as he investigated the Chang family's case, which was a major incident. Fortunately, the Chang family was wealthy, and no one was injured, so they weren't sent to serve time. Chang Jin's father, somewhat helpless, intended to let the matter rest, only hoping the other party could be kind to Chang Jin in the future. He explained that it wasn't now, but after the memory was restored, the other party said nothing. Lu Dao was very aware that, given his personality, he should quickly find out about his marital status, but he was somewhat afraid of the truth behind it. After returning home, Chang Jin told Lu Dao to rest first. He planned to finish sewing the dress in the studio before sleeping. However, the word dress caught the other's attention. Feeling a bit guilty, he explained that it was one of his hobbies. He then opened the studio door, intending to show the other person. The other person, seeing a row of women's dresses, couldn't help but ask if his hobby was sewing women's dresses. Chang Jin explained that he could also make some money on the side, and assured Lu Dao that he would finish soon and then accompany him. Lu Dao patted Chang Jin's head, telling him he could ask for money if needed, as his account still had plenty. But Chang Jin immediately refused without a second thought. Lu Dao was a bit puzzled and then suggested that partners could open a joint account. Chang Jin did not elaborate much on this, only saying that he could manage. Chang Jin held Lu Dao's hand, hoping he could trust him and promised to speak up if he really faced difficulties, wanting to solve it with his own capabilities and hoping Lu Dao would agree. However, Lu Dao did not verbally agree. But the other person didn't immediately agree, so he hesitantly called him husband. This call of husband instantly touched the other's heart. The other person agreed to his request, sat down to wait for him, and checked some information. The two happily made the decision. Chang Jin also sat down. He took out the finished blue crystal accessories, planning to sew them onto the dress. The remaining blue crystals also needed to be sewn onto the dress. He hoped the customer would like it as he sewed. While Chang Jin was sewing the dress, Lu Dao was sitting beside him checking information. They were busy with their own tasks without interfering with each other. By this time, Chang Jin had finished and stood up to stretch. Lu Dao hugged him from behind, massaged his waist, handed him a glass of water, and praised his focus. He asked if the other had finished checking the information. The other replied that there was a lot he wanted to know, and it would take some time to read through it. He comforted the other not to worry, saying that once all the toxins in the brain were gone, he would remember everything. He picked up the newly sewn dress, held it up against himself, and asked if it looked good. The other said the dress looked great and suited him well. Chang Jin was very happy to hear the compliment. He couldn't wear the dress but loved the blue crystals on it. He checked the size and number of blue crystals, hung the dress up, and considered it finished. After taking a shower, Chang Jin dried his face with a towel. He went to the bed and asked Lu Dao what he was looking at. Upon closer look, he realized the other person was watching something steamy. He covered his face shyly, unable to say a word. The next second, his waist was caught by the other person, who suggested they learn together. Leaning close to his ear, they remarked that the protagonist's figure was similar to his, but not as soft, and said something VIP that couldn't be heard. Chang Jin hesitantly said it should be possible. Soon, he was laid on the bed by Lu Dao, who stated that practice brings true knowledge. Lu Dao assured him that he'd try hard to increase the chances of having a child, but Chang Jin had already taken measures to ensure they wouldn't. Seeing Chang Jin still asleep, Lu Dao couldn't help but gently stroke his cheek. Chang Jin seemed to feel his touch and nuzzled against his hand. As Lu Dao was about to leave, Chang Jin woke up. Rubbing his eyes, he asked where the other person was going. While dressing, the other person explained they had to go to the military department to handle paperwork and check the office. Chang Jin asked when they'd return. The other person smiled at him, saying they'd be back soon, pinching his chin and telling him to wait obediently at home. Chang Jin realized it had been a long time since he contacted his brother, so he opened the screen and made a video call to him, but nobody answered. He guessed his brother might be busy. He felt a bit down and was about to hang up and wait for his brother to call back once he was free, but the video suddenly connected. Chang Shu looked a bit flustered and asked Chang Jin why he was calling. The other person seemed very happy, saying he just wanted to know how he was doing, and asked why his work uniform had changed to a suit. He explained that he had switched to a job that was easier than the factory. Chang Jin was relieved to hear that his brother had found a more relaxed job, but then started blaming himself, thinking he was useless and didn't need to do all this. He felt that his brother had changed a lot. Chang Jin was very happy and planned to invite his brother over to his house, to which his brother agreed to come over the next morning. Chang Jin was still thinking about what dishes to prepare when Chang Shu accidentally let out a breath. Chang Jin immediately noticed something was off with his brother, but the other person said he had something to deal with and hurriedly hung up the call. Yan Qi had both hands resting on the headboard. He didn't expect Chang Shu to actually manage to hold back. He reached up, grabbed the other's hair, and pressed him onto the bed. Looking smug, he thought the other should have answered Chang Jin directly. After speaking, he leaned close to the other's ear and said things that even VIPs couldn't hear. Yan Qi, smugly adjusting his bangs, asked Chang Shu if he was very kind, since he hadn't embarrassed him in front of Chang Jin. Yan Qi continued to taunt, knowing that Chang Shu was like a pillar in front of Chang Jin, but this pillar now had to go against his own heart to gather enough for his father's medical expenses. He thought he was too kind, otherwise, Chang Jin would have surely seen this spectacular performance. Before he could finish speaking, Chang Shu silenced him with a kiss. At this moment, Lu Dao had just returned from the military department, and Chang Jin happily greeted him, but Lu Dao hurriedly pulled him away, leaving him a bit bewildered. Lu Dao dragged Chang Jin into a room, not only turning off the lights, but also drawing the curtains. In this situation, Chang Jin couldn't help but misunderstand, thinking that Lu Dao was going to pull him into bed for some intimacy again, which made his heart race. Lu Dao extended his tightly clasped hands in front of Chang Jin, telling him that he saw something in the office today and thought he might like it, so he brought it back. As he spoke, he opened his hands to reveal a luminous pearl. Chang Jin immediately recognized the azure blue. Lu Dao asked if he liked it, but Chang Jin fell into deep thought, because this azure blue was the one he had asked his brother to sell, yet somehow it ended up in Lu Dao's office. Seeing Chang Jin silent, Lu Dao asked if he didn't like the luminous pearl. Chang Jin smiled brightly, expressing that he liked it very much. He took the pearl and saw a flaw on it, further confirming that it was the one he had before. Lu Dao was somewhat dissatisfied with Chang Jin's reaction, thinking it wasn't the attitude one should have towards something they like. So he pinched Chang Jin's face and asked if this was really the attitude of liking something. Seeing this, Chang Jin immediately threw himself into Lu Dao's arms, exclaiming that he really liked it. Only then did Lu Dao show a satisfied smile and thoroughly enjoyed Chang Jin's affection, directly kissing his cheek. He directly kissed the other person's cheek, expressed his thanks verbally, and then began to hum a song as he planned to put away the night pearl. He placed the night pearl into a container he had woven earlier. Lu Dao couldn't help but marvel at how perfectly it fit, as if it was made to measure. However, he didn't know that the container was originally made by Chang Jin specifically for the night pearl. Chang Jin suddenly remembered that Chang Shu would visit him tomorrow, so he asked Lu Dao if he wanted to go out. Lu Dao didn't quite understand and immediately explained there was no other implication, suggesting if he didn't go out, they could chat together. The other person seemed a bit distracted at that moment. Images flashed through Lu Dao's mind, Chang Jin pulling his arm, pleading with him to stay at home to greet the family together, but he coldly refused and even stated that the other person's family affairs had nothing to do with him. The other person looked somewhat despondent, trying to use marriage to keep him, but this only angered him more. He rudely shook off the other person's hand, feeling that they were the last person qualified to talk about marriage. Lu Dao was jerked back to reality when Chang Jin loudly called out his name. The other person looked at him with worried eyes. He could only cough lightly as a cover, and then he took the other person's hand, telling them he wouldn't go out. Only then did the other person show a happy smile. He pulled the other person into his arms but was still thinking about the scenes that had just flashed in his mind, considering them to be his memories. He hadn't expected that before his amnesia, he had been so indifferent toward Chang Jin. Seeing the happy Chang Jin in front of him, he was puzzled about what their relationship had deteriorated into. As the doorbell rings, Chang Jin runs to open the door excitedly, thinking his brother has arrived a bit too early. However, to his surprise, it's not his brother but Ai Shui. He's a bit curious about why she has come. Ai Shui, holding a big gift box, expresses that her family has prepared a thank you gift to show their gratitude for Lu Dao saving her life. Chang Jin didn't expect her family to be so warm-hearted. He awkwardly invites her inside and goes to take the gift box, but she reminds him that the gift is somewhat heavy. Lu Dao takes the gift box directly, showing off his boyfriend's strength in front of Chang Jin. Chang Jin asks Ai Shui if she would like something to drink, and from the options he provides, she picks a hot cocoa with double sugar. At this moment, Chang runs over with the hot cocoa, calling Ai Shui, "Beautiful sir." While handing over the drink to Ai Shui, Chang introduces himself, mentioning that he likes the singer Tim. Ai Shui says he also likes Tim and even shares his favorite song from Tim. They start chatting, and Chang Jin watches them with a smile from a distance. While Chang Jin is making soup in the kitchen, Lu Dao comes over with an unhappy face. He asks what's wrong, and it turns out Lu Dao is jealous, feeling that Chang has betrayed him. Chang Jin is amused by his childish jealousy, explaining that Chang has always liked handsome guys, but his favorite is still Lu Dao. This statement catches Lu Dao's attention, prompting him to ask for more details. Chang Jin explains that Chang is a robot with a kinship bond program and contains his genes. Emotionally, there's also a subtle connection between them. Because Chang Jin likes Lu Dao the most, so does Chang, even more than Chang Jin himself. Suddenly, Lu Dao realizes something is off and asks Chang Jin if he also likes handsome guys. Chang Jin immediately waves his hands to clarify, stating that he's an exception to this. He leaned on the other's shoulder, while the other stutteringly expressed that he only liked him. The two were in the kitchen, ready to try the newly made soup, when Ai Shui suddenly appeared. Joking that they were hiding in the kitchen eating delicious food, and had neglected him, the guest who had specially come to visit. Chang Jin hurriedly explained that they were just letting Lu Dao taste the soup first, then asked Ai Shui if he wanted a bowl too. Ai Shui was naturally very willing. Suddenly, the doorbell rang and Chang Jin went to open the door happily. Ai Shui was guessing who could make Chang Jin so excited. Lu Dao directly solved the mystery. It was Chang Jin's brother. Ai Shui immediately said he had guessed as much, while also teasing Lu Dao's expression, feeling that Lu Dao seemed to be afraid that he would steal Chang Jin away. He remembered that Lu Dao never used to talk about his partner. He thought their relationship was not good, as partner was never mentioned. This directly caught Lu Dao's attention. Ai Shui affirmed this, saying that he had been partners with Lu Dao for 3 years, yet had never seen Chang Jin. Lu Dao caught the keyword again. Ai Shui actually called Chang Jin, Little Jin. He had to take it seriously, but the other party said it was just to avoid being estranged, and even dragged him to meet the big uncle brother. Soon, someone greeted Ai Shui and called him Brother Shui. This person was his cousin Yan Qi. Yan Qi extended his hand generously to say hello, while Chang Shu seemed somewhat awkward. Chang Jin did not expect Ai Shui and Yan Qi to have this relationship. Ai Shui explained that he and Yan Qi were cousins, and Yan Qi should now have secured the position of the richest man. He also introduced Chang Shu to Lu Dao, saying that he often heard about Chang Shu from Yan Qi. Yan Qi took the initiative to explain that he and Chang Shu had grown up together as childhood sweethearts. Lu Dao immediately hugged Chang Jin, declaring his ownership, stating that the other was now a married man. Yan Qi immediately spread his hands, feeling that this matter had nothing to do with him. Chang Shu noticed that Lu Dao's attitude towards Chang Jin had indeed changed significantly from before. Despite Yan Qi showing no interest in Chang Jin at all, Lu Dao still looked at him with hostile eyes. Lu Dao immediately turned into a wronged puppy. Chang Jin comforted them to take their seats first and mentioned that the meal would be ready soon. Chang sensibly poured water for everyone, while Chang Jin pulled Chang Shu into the kitchen together. He asked Chang Shu if he was doing well, whether he could have enough to eat and wear, and rest on time. He looked at the other party with great concern, worried that the other party would not be able to hold on. Worried that the other party couldn't bear it any longer, she threw herself into the other's arms. The other party was obviously a bit overwhelmed, especially since they had just been agitated by Yan Qi yesterday. Cheng Shu touched Cheng Jin's head, indicating that he was doing very well and told the other to not worry. But the other still couldn't stop worrying about him and even noticed that he had lost weight. He patted the other's back, reiterating that he was indeed doing well, wanting the other to feel at ease. Cheng Jin suddenly remembered that there was serious business to inquire about, so he asked who the buyer of Kang Lan was and why it appeared with Lu Dao. His brother explained that it was an online transaction where the buyer chose to purchase anonymously, and a special machine was sent for the pickup, so he didn't know the buyer's information. Cheng Jin immediately became excited, guessing that Lu Dao was helping him behind the scenes. However, Cheng Shu felt that if Lu Dao was really the buyer, he wouldn't have ignored Cheng Jin for 2 years. Cheng Jin thought his brother's reasoning made sense, but he still didn't understand why Lu Dao would buy something he didn't like. Cheng Shu placed his hand on his shoulder, guessing that Lu Dao probably wanted to gift the night pearl to someone. Cheng Jin thought this possibility was slim because after Lu Dao lost his memory, no suspicious person came to visit. Cheng Shu speculated that maybe Lu Dao didn't want Cheng Jin to find out and deliberately hid it. Cheng Jin still refused to accept the reality, pointing out that Lu Dao's communicator had no anomalies. After all, if there really was an affair, there would always be some traces left. Cheng Shu, while frying sausages, tried to convince his younger brother that making no slip-ups wasn't that difficult. He touched the other's head again and asked how Lu Dao treated the other after losing his memory. The other affirmed this. Cheng Shu, seeing his younger brother's aggrieved look, couldn't help but feel distressed and said that he would take the other away from here in a few months. The other was somewhat shocked and asked what he planned to do about their father's illness. He had already contacted the hospital and doctors on the 6-star planet, and they could leave once their father's condition stabilized after the surgery, which coincided closely with the time Lu Dao would regain his memory. Cheng Jin fell into contemplation, and Cheng Shu comforted him that although the environment on the 6-star planet wasn't as good as here, they could still live well. Cheng Shu pressed his forehead against Cheng Jin's, promising to take good care of his younger brother no matter what. Cheng Jin wiped away his tears and immediately asked if his brother was having a hard time, thinking that if his brother got married, a sister-in-law could help take care of him. At this point, Cheng Shu imagined Yan Qi as a house husband and suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. Cheng Jin asked if his brother still had any thoughts of getting married, but Cheng Shu seemed a bit hesitant. Yan Qi happened to come in and overheard the word, marriage. Acting proud, he asked Cheng Shu who he wanted to marry. Cheng Shu immediately diverted the topic, saying that the meal was ready and it was time to eat. Yan Qi was clearly unwilling to skip this topic. Resting his chin on his hand, he brought up the marriage topic again at the dining table, mentioning that he and Cheng Jin had an arranged engagement when they were kids. Everyone's expressions were different. Lu Dao was a bit angry and grabbed Cheng Jin's hand, asking if it was true, but Cheng Jin said he knew nothing about it. Yan Qi put his hand on Cheng Shu's waist, asking him to confirm the story. Cheng Shu immediately said that it was true, but it was just a joke between the families and they shouldn't take it seriously. Cheng Jin finally breathed a sigh of relief. Yan Qi, resting his chin on his hand, jokingly said he cared about it and was thinking that the Cheng family had a bride-to-be. Lu Dao interjected to stop Yan Qi, holding Cheng Jin and once again asserting his claim. He sternly told Yan Qi not to make such jokes again. Cheng Jin, held in Lu Dao's arms, realized Lu Dao was defending him and felt very happy. Ai Shui quickly stepped in to smooth things over, inviting everyone to start eating. After lunch, Cheng Shu said goodbye to Cheng Jin, as he had work to handle in the afternoon and needed to leave soon. Cheng Jin prepared a bag of food for him to take back. Ai Shui also tactfully left, reminding Lu Dao and Cheng Jin to enjoy their time together. Cheng Jin waved goodbye to them reluctantly. Lu Dao, standing nearby, was a bit jealous. Cheng Jin explained that he didn't know when he would see his brother again, so naturally, he would feel reluctant. Lu Dao was not satisfied with this answer and grabbed Cheng Jin's hand. He pushed him back against the wall, expressing that the real person he was jealous of was Yan Qi. Cheng Jin disliked Yan Qi because his gaze seemed to view him as a fool and he inexplicably felt hostility from him. After explaining this, he stepped forward and kissed Lu Dao on the cheek, then invited Lu Dao to open the gifts together. Cheng Jin asked Lu Dao to take some gifts to his grandmother. When asked if he wanted to go together, he declined because he was worried that seeing him might upset his grandmother. He had done something wrong in the past, which made his grandmother dislike him, and he was also worried that she might tell Lu Dao about it, causing him to dislike him too. Lu Dao smiled and told Cheng Jin that none of this would happen. After all, he had already realized his mistake. He had heard that Cheng Jin used to be very spoiled, but clearly, he had changed now. Cheng Jin handed a cashmere blanket to Lu Dao, specifically instructing him not to tell his grandmother that he had knitted it, to avoid her rejecting it. Lu Dao patted his head and planned to put the things away. Watching Lu Dao's departing figure, Cheng Jin was worried that his grandmother might tell Lu Dao the truth, and he would get angry. He even considered seducing him. Thinking of this, he decided to take a bath first and clean himself up. While drying his hair, he opened the bedroom door and then lay down by the bed. He remembered that the items he ordered online hadn't been unboxed yet and were all thrown under the bed. Sure enough, he reached under the bed and found a box. He opened the box happily, swallowing with anticipation. He happily opened the box and swallowed, his face blushing as he took out the items from the box, wondering if Lu Tao would like them. Just as he was lost in thought, Lu Tao suddenly came back and asked him what he was doing. Cheng Jin was caught red-handed with the toys by Lu Tao, and his face immediately turned red with embarrassment. Feeling too ashamed to face Lu Tao, he quickly crawled under the bed. Lu Tao was initially a bit annoyed, but seeing the hairband and bells scattered on the floor, he immediately understood. Cheng Jin, who had already hidden under the bed, then realized that he had left the toys outside. The other party lifted the bed cover and asked him to come out. He, with his face red, curled up into a ball under the bed, praying incessantly that the other party wouldn't see him. Lu Tao found Cheng Jin's appearance very cute. He pretended to be angry and asked him to come out quickly. The other party then slowly crawled out from under the bed, looking particularly adorable. Lu Tao stepped forward, hugged Cheng Jin, and asked him if he was dissatisfied with his behavior in some aspects, which led him to play with toys when he wasn't home. The other party immediately explained that he played with the toys to please him, which left him somewhat puzzled. Cheng Jin was afraid that his grandmother would tell Lu Tao some old stories, even more afraid that Lu Tao would get angry at him. Lu Tao moved closer to Cheng Jin, deliberately asking how he intended to please him with these things, pointing at the pile of toys. The other party immediately waved his hands and stammered an explanation that the toys were new and had never been played with. Lu Dao looked at the scattered hairbands and bells, hoping for an explanation. The other person blushed immediately, saying they were bought by mistake. In the next moment, the bell was put around Cheng Jin's neck, and he seemed a bit reluctant. Lu Dao smiled, saying the size was just right and it wasn't bought by mistake. He handed the hairband to Cheng Jin, leaned close to his ear, and told him to put on the hairband himself and wait for him on the bed. Then he took out a sticker and asked if it was also bought. The other person hurriedly explained that it was a gift from the seller and immediately reached out to grab it. Lu Dao was skeptical of this explanation. He planned to stick the sticker on the other person's waist. Lu Dao reassured Cheng Jin not to move, and quickly stuck the sticker on. With the sticker on, Cheng Jin's eyes became very dreamy, and he actively pounced on him. He saw the instruction manual and realized it was a heat-sensitive quick tattoo sticker. By this time, the other person had struck a very alluring and enticing pose, even sticking out his tongue, giving off a catgirl vibe. However, Lu Dao suddenly frowned, looking very displeased. He pinned Cheng Jin down on the bed, intending to have a good time, but the other person suddenly covered his mouth, accusing him of not being loving enough before. Lu Dao kissed Cheng Jin's hair and asked if it was true. The other person confirmed it, saying no matter how much he tried to please or beg him, it was of no use. Cheng Jin looked very aggrieved, blaming Lu Dao for being too mean, even unwilling to look at his face. After saying this, he started fussing, asking him to look at his face now. Then the two embraced and fell in love, the scene looking very harmonious. Cheng Jin lay very gently in Lu Dao's arms. Lu Dao thought the other looked very well behaved, not at all like someone who would threaten others into marriage. He gently moved Cheng Jin to the bed. As Cheng Jin seemed overly humble in front of him, and insecure, he guessed that he might have been very indifferent to Cheng Jin before. He was somewhat curious about what kind of indifference could make the other person become like this. He asked Fei Li for a schedule from the past 7 years and learned from it that, in 7 years, he only returned for 5 months and 3 days. Even when he returned, he was mostly training at the military base, rarely coming home. The time left for Cheng Jin was probably not much. He gently stroked Cheng Jin's face with his fingers, not understanding how much Cheng Jin must like him to not file for divorce. He was also curious about what his feelings toward Cheng Jin were before. If his personality hadn't changed much before and after amnesia, he probably wouldn't have maintained a relationship with someone he disliked. He reached out to tidy Cheng Jin's hair, thinking Cheng Jin completely fit his aesthetic. Suddenly, he noticed something off in the schedule. When Cheng Jin applied to accompany him in the army, they were searching for spies. Looking at the timeline, it must have been right after clearing the last wave of werewolves. Based on his previous way of handling things, he guessed he might have sent Cheng Jin back immediately out of concern for Cheng Jin's safety. Lu Dao rested his chin on his hand, lying beside Cheng Jin and quietly watching him. He wondered if he really disliked Cheng Jin before, How could he explain his current feelings? Thinking of this, he hugged Chang Jin in his arms. At this moment, Chang Jin woke up. Lu Dao looked at him with a smile, very satisfied with his performance last night. Chang Jin stopped rubbing his eyes, blushing instantly, and said he didn't remember anything. Lu Dao somewhat regretted not recording his appearance last night. Chang Jin shyly hid under the blanket, saying they could record it next time. Lu Dao rested his chin on his hand and teased the other if they also wanted to see. He hooked the other person's chin with his finger, asking if they really didn't remember what happened last night. The other person vigorously shook their head. They truly didn't remember. Lu Dao then asked where the stickers were bought, thinking if someone else used them, wouldn't it be taking advantage without knowing? He also asked if the other person had used them before. The other person said they couldn't remember where they bought them, guessing they might have been a gift from the seller. Lu Dao stared at the other person seriously, confirming once more that they hadn't used them before. The other person hid behind the blanket, looking very shy, saying if they were to use them, it would be with him, and they hadn't been intimate with other men. Lu Dao leaned forward and kissed Chang Jin's eyes, feeling relieved that they hadn't used them. He then wrapped his arm around the other's waist, and the two started to get intimate again. Lu Dao told Chang Jin that Ai Shui had invited him to a gathering and asked if they wanted to join. The other person refused without a second thought. He thought they didn't want to go out with him, but it turned out they had guessed it was a competitive type of gathering and also had unfinished work. Because there was still work unfinished, it was declined. Lu Dao proposed opening a joint account with Chang Jin, but Chang Jin declined again. Since the other party was already covering all the household expenses, Chang Jin only needed to help his brother with their father's medication costs. Lu Dao confirmed the joint account matter once more, but was declined again. Chang Jin remembered when their family hadn't gone bankrupt yet. His father strongly opposed him opening a joint account with Lu Dao, fearing that Lu Dao would take advantage of their family's assets, and wanted to use money to control Lu Dao. At the time, he agreed with his father's perspective. However, Lu Dao never exploited their family's assets and through his own efforts achieved great success. Therefore, when the Chang family faced difficulties, Chang Jin felt embarrassed to seek help from Lu Dao. Given how he had once maliciously doubted Lu Dao, Chang Jin carried the sewn dress and pushed open the door of the high-end fashion store. At this moment, Andy was dealing with a troublesome customer. He explained to the customer that Madame Ruila's schedule was fully booked, but the customer insisted on wearing a dress made by Madame Ruila before the Orange Blossom banquet. Chang Jin happened to walk into this situation, and young Master Lien immediately mocked him, saying he was bankrupt yet still had money to shop here and asked where his bullying demeanor had gone. Without a word, Chang Jin directly apologized to the other party, leaving them speechless. Chang Jin continued to apologize and bowed sincerely to the other party. The other party was not expecting Chang Jin to apologize and turned to Andy for confirmation. Andy told young Master Lien not to stoop to Chang Jin's level. Young Master Lien suddenly became interested in the box Chang Jin was holding and opened the lid, causing the entire dress to fall out. He picked up the dress and immediately recognized it as Madame Ruila's work. Chang Jin stammered as he requested the dress back. While Chang Jin was distracted, the other party secretly took a blue crystal from the dress. When throwing the dress back, they mocked him for running errands for others. Chang Jin, sharp-eyed, noticed a blue crystal was missing from the dress, even though he had protected it carefully. He had no choice but to ask the other party if they had seen the fallen blue crystal. The other party disdainfully thought he was accusing them of stealing it. Chang Jin hastily explained he didn't mean that. The other party disdainfully pulled out a blue crystal, indicating they had one too. Although Chang Jin was suspicious, he had no evidence. He planned to buy the blue crystal from the other party for 100,000 balance. The other party, however, said they could give him the blue crystal, but he must serve as their servant for a day during the orange flower banquet, intending to humiliate him. Chang Jin was a bit hesitant, and the other party threatened him with the blue crystal. Currently, the blue crystal is priceless and not available in the market. 100,000 balance would definitely not be enough to buy it. Clearly, the threat was successful, and Chang Jin had no choice but to agree to the unreasonable demands. After Lu Dao returned, he handed Chang Jin a small box and said he wanted to give the other party a surprise. Chang Jin was curious about what was inside and reached out to take the box. However, Lu Dao suddenly pulled back his hand and held the box up high, taking the opportunity to ask for a kiss, saying he would give it to him if he got a kiss. Blushing, Chang Jin mustered up the courage and kissed him on the face. Taking the chance, the other party held his waist, picked him up, and pushed him onto the sofa, kissing him deeply. Chang Jin, unable to breathe from the kiss, pounded on the other party's back, and only then did they let him go. Lu Dao opened the small box to reveal a sapphire bracelet, as Chang Jin's favorite is sapphire. Lu Dao fastened the bracelet on his wrist and reminded him that wearing the bracelet he gave means he belongs to him and that he should never think of running away in this lifetime. Lu Dao held Cheng Jin's hand and caressed his face, asking if he liked the bracelet he gave. Cheng Jin smiled brightly and said he liked it very much. While Lu Dao laid him down, Cheng Jin hesitantly told him that he wanted to go to the bedroom for intimacy. He directly refused Cheng Jin's request, saying the sofa was good enough and had a sense of novelty. Suddenly, he remembered that Ai Shui had invited him to attend a mecha manipulation banquet at the end of the month and asked if Cheng Jin wanted to attend together. Cheng Jin was relieved to hear it wasn't the orange flower banquet. He declined Lu Dao's invitation, which Lu Dao found very puzzling and was somewhat angry about. Cheng Jin hooked his arm around Lu Dao's neck and asked in return if it wasn't better to show it only to him. Lu Dao was very pleased with this statement. He lifted Cheng Jin's chin, indicating that he wanted to take a closer look. Soon, the day of the Orange Blossom Banquet arrived, and Cheng Jin served as Lien Xiaoyi's servant for a day as agreed. He changed into the headgear and outfit prepared by the other party. The skirt was so short that it revealed half of his buttocks. He felt that this outfit was not quite appropriate, and although there were male servant outfits available, the other party was determined to humiliate him. They wouldn't let him change into a male servant outfit and reminded him not to disobey the master's orders. Soon, some people gathered around, and some thought Cheng Jin, with his petite figure, looked cute in a maid outfit. Lien Xiaoyi deliberately made Cheng Jin raise his head to greet everyone, and people began to discuss Cheng Jin. He could only listen silently, and some even discussed his partner, criticizing his high-status partner for allowing him to demean himself like this. Others said he didn't have a wedding ceremony and doubted he was ever married off. Coupled with his bad temper, they guessed no one wanted to marry him. Soon, an announcement was broadcasted for the guests participating in the knitting competition to gather in the courtyard. Lien Xiaoyi thought this was a good opportunity to humiliate Cheng Jin and immediately called Cheng Jin to go to the courtyard with him. People around thought Cheng Jin would lose, as he had always given the impression of being a pampered young master. At this moment, the host was holding Cheng Jin's work and loudly announced the winner of the competition was Cheng Jin. Cheng Jin stood on the podium somewhat awkwardly. Soon, a lady dressed in luxurious clothes stopped Cheng Jin. Cheng Jin recognized the skirt the lady was wearing as one he had sewn. The lady was haughty, believing he had no right to attend the banquet and criticized him for dressing in such a way to seduce men and seek a man's sponsorship. At this moment, a voice suddenly echoed through the venue, drawing everyone's attention. It was Lu Dao arriving with his grandmother. It was Lu Dao who pushed his grandmother here. He immediately stated that Cheng Jin, as his legal partner, had the status of a general's wife and did not need to rely on other means to stay on the imperial planet. Lu Dao stepped forward, hugged Cheng Jin's waist, and pulled the other into his arms. He even deliberately called the other, "Madam," in front of everyone, showing his support. Lu Dao asked Cheng Jin why he didn't tell him about coming to the Orange Blossom party. Cheng Jin apologized with a red face but felt embarrassed in his heart. They had shown such intimacy, but still, some people doubted they were legal partners. Lu Dao did not indulge the other party and counter-asked if they wanted to see their marriage certificate. The other party, embarrassed by Lu Dao's boldness, immediately said it was not necessary. The grandmother's sister praised Cheng Jin's craftsmanship and wanted him to finish the remaining half of the work and give it to her. The other party agreed without hesitation. Cheng Jin, wearing a maid outfit, greeted the grandmother somewhat awkwardly. The grandmother was very dissatisfied with his dress and ordered him to change immediately. The grandmother's sister quickly came out to mediate, thinking Cheng Jin's dress was quite cute. Lu Dao stepped forward to speak for Cheng Jin, but Cheng Jin spoke first, saying he promised to be a servant for young Master Lien for a day and could not break his word. The grandmother was somewhat stunned by Cheng Jin's words. Young Master Lien stammered an explanation, saying it was just a joke. Cheng Jin could change whenever he wanted. Then he started to apologize, admitting that he had deceived Cheng Jin. The blue crystal was dropped by him to humiliate Cheng Jin. Young Master Lien apologized and ran off. The others also had their arrangements. After everyone left, Lu Dao reminded Cheng Jin that it was time to explain. He also asked about the clothes Cheng Jin was wearing. Cheng Jin, with his head down, was somewhat at a loss. Cheng Jin explained the whole story to Lu Dao. After listening, Lu Dao was very angry and regretted letting young Master Lien go so easily. At this moment, Eureka asked Cheng Jin if he wanted to make the transaction now. He had already prepared the balance to buy dessert coupons. Lu Dao thought Cheng Jin had worked hard to win the championship to give the prize to Eureka. Cheng Jin hurriedly explained that he was not giving but selling it to Eureka. He had discussed with Eureka and wanted to give him the dessert coupons a day later because he wanted to take Lu Dao to try it first. He also said he didn't need the other person's balance. When Eureka saw such a good thing, she immediately agreed and thought Cheng Jin was very nice. Then Cheng Jin explained to Lu Dao that he wanted to find a place to change clothes. Lu Dao blushed a little, thinking it wasn't necessary and that the other person looked cute dressed like that. The other person was also blushed by his words. Then Lu Dao took Cheng Jin to enjoy other activities. Lu Dao changed into swimming trunks and surfed in the pool. Cheng Jin immediately transformed into a cheerleader to support him. The two embraced sweetly in front of the castle, while Yan Qi was responsible for taking pictures of Cheng Shu. A beautiful day ended like this. At this moment, a handsome battleship was sailing in the night sky. At the window, the reflection of Lu Dao and Cheng Jin showed them kissing each other. Cheng Jin timely stopped Lu Dao, saying whatever it is, they should do it at home. Lu Dao didn't accept his suggestion and wanted to resolve it on the spot. Lu Dao lifted Cheng Jin's skirt, asking if he wasn't worried about exposure while dressed so cutely. The other person shyly pulled down the skirt, saying he was always careful to cover it. Lu Dao thought this made him even more conspicuous and stammered, asking the other person not to tease. However, the other person took it further, whispered some bold words into his ear, which made him bristle with resistance to doing anything on the battleship. Then he playfully hit the other's chest with his fists, emphasizing several times that it wasn't allowed. The next second, his hand was grabbed by the other person. The other person pitifully said it hurt. Seeing the other's aggrieved look, Cheng Jin hesitated and couldn't say anything more, just let out a long sigh. Lu Dao pressed the start button and the battleship took off directly. Cheng Jin had compromised, shyly turned his head, and leaned against the window, looking quite pitiable. Lu Dao didn't expect the other person to be so proactive, achieving his goal. Cheng Jin, a bit shy, said he could see Lu Dao's face through the window. Lu Dao was already standing behind him, gently calling him, baby, and kissing the back of his neck, praising him for being beautiful. Cheng Jin was very pleased with Lu Dao's compliments. It was praise he had never heard before. The other person kissed his ear, thinking he seemed a bit distracted, and asked what he was thinking about. Cheng Jin, blushing, turned to Lu Dao and said he wasn't distracted, he was always thinking about Lu Dao. Lu Dao then asked if he was thinking about the old him. The other party suddenly started crying, then turned back to touch his face, affirming his words. Unexpectedly, Lu Dao suddenly got angry and forbade the other party from thinking about his past self, saying he would get jealous. Cheng Jin couldn't understand this. Clearly, both were Lu Dao, but Lu Dao believed that without his past memories, he couldn't be considered the same person, insisting that Cheng Jin should only think of him now. Hearing this, Cheng Jin couldn't help but be amused. He leaned forward to embrace the other's neck, agreeing to only think about the current Lu Dao. At this moment, he felt that no matter how cold Lu Dao became after recovering, even if he drove him away or divorced him, it would be worth it. At the Orange Flower Banquet, the news of Lu Dao publicly revealing his partner's identity caused a huge stir, landing them in entertainment news. Meanwhile, the two were tasting desserts at the Sunny Cake Shop, where Cheng Jin picked up a piece of strawberry cheesecake in front of him. He thoughtfully fed it to Lu Dao, suggesting with a smile that he try this flavor. Lu Dao also found it delicious. Eureka and Ai Shui also arrived. Eureka immediately noticed Cheng Jin's Planet 6 keychain. He wanted the other party to transfer it to him, as he was only missing Planet 6 and Empire Planet for a complete collection. Cheng Jin was puzzled about how they showed up there. Ai Shui explained that Eureka wanted to eat desserts, so he accompanied him, coincidentally running into Cheng Jin and the others. He pulled out a chair and asked Lu Dao if he minded them joining the table, feeling they might be interrupting the date. Lu Dao admitted it was indeed an interruption, but he didn't mind because he and Cheng Jin were legal partners with plenty of time to spend together. Eureka happily accepted the keychain that Cheng Jin handed him and complimented the good looks of the keychains from Planet 6. Cheng Jin remembered his brother mentioning moving to Planet 6 and became curious about what it was like. Lu Dao said that Planet 6 was quite ordinary with an economy ranking in the middle to lower levels. The climate has distinct seasons, and the fish have delicious, fatty meat. Ai Shui wondered why Cheng Jin had never been to other planets, remembering that he had previously applied to accompany the military. Cheng Jin explained that he didn't go to another planet with the military but landed directly at the combat base and was quickly sent back. Lu Dao felt a pang of distress for Cheng Jin upon hearing this. He turned Cheng Jin's face towards him and promised it wouldn't happen again next time. As Cheng Jin looked on with concern, Lu Dao expressed his desire to have Cheng Jin by his side every moment. Cheng Jin, holding Lu Dao's hand, felt deeply moved. Eureka and Ai Shui effectively became the third wheels, and Ai Shui was also shocked at how the two could show affection so openly. Lu Dao picked up a cookie from the dessert and suggested Cheng Jin try it too, feeding him the cookie with his mouth and not forgetting to raise an eyebrow to show off to Aishui. Aishui thought they were being childish. Lu Dao kissed Cheng Jin's forehead and said he needed to go to the restroom for a moment, with Cheng Jin immediately nodding in agreement. Seeing Lu Dao leave, Aishui also got up, wiping his mouth, excusing himself for a moment. He followed Lu Dao to the restroom where they stood in front of the mirror, glancing at each other. Aishui teased Lu Dao, asking if he thought he was good-looking and hoped Lu Dao wouldn't keep staring at him to avoid misunderstandings. Unexpectedly, Lu Dao thought Aishui was monitoring him and spoke quite seriously about it. Aishui smiled brightly, not understanding why Lu Dao would ask such a question. Lu Dao said that they had too many coincidences and he had seen the itinerary. Although the other person was his partner, they were not close personally. He hoped Aishui could explain this. Aishui said it was not convenient to chat here, and he indeed needed to take Lu Dao somewhere. Aishui took Lu Dao to the military hospital. The doctor said that after Lu Dao was discharged, they had been following up and observing, suspecting there was more to Lu Dao's illness. Lu Dao was also very curious about what the hidden issue could be. The doctor concluded based on the data that Lu Dao's amnesia was not caused by toxins affecting his memory, but rather the toxins had triggered a second personality. Lu Dao was more concerned about how the doctor reached this conclusion. Aishui and Fei Li were also sweating profusely. The doctor presented a data analysis chart of Lu Dao before and after his amnesia, explaining that if it were amnesia, a drastic change in personality would be normal. But if he was previously skilled at something and now is not, it explains everything. He asked Aishui to take Lu Dao to participate in many competitive events, but the results before and after amnesia were different. Aishui also recalled some details. Operating mechas and gliders were his specialties, yet he lost to Lu Dao. The doctor asked Lu Dao to recall if there had been any unusual situations or if he had remembered any past memories during this time. Lu Dao truthfully told him that when he first met his partner's family, he felt inexplicably resistant and had recalled some fragmented memories while with his partner. The doctor immediately recorded Lu Dao's statement and asked if his memories were in first-person or third-person perspective. Lu Dao thought for a moment and explained that his perspective was third-person. The doctor felt this further confirmed the existence of dual personalities within Lu Dao, and the discomfort in his heart was due to jealousy, not the influence of past memories. Lu Dao was somewhat puzzled by the word jealousy. The doctor said that if one has an excessive possessiveness towards their partner, they will feel jealous of the people their partner is intimate with. Lu Dao thought this was impossible. He couldn't possibly be jealous of Cheng Jin's family. However, the doctor believed that jealousy is irrational and uncontrollable emotionally. And the previous Lu Dao did not possess a strong desire to monopolize Cheng Jin, but rather was quite indifferent to her. So indifferent that Cheng Jin felt disheartened and wanted to apply for a divorce. When Lu Dao heard that Cheng Jin had applied for divorce, he was struck by a bolt from the blue. Fei Li confirmed that it was true, and that before returning, Lu Dao had also agreed to go somewhere with Cheng Jin. The doctor continued to ask Lu Dao if he had experienced any moments of bewilderment or confusion after regaining consciousness. Lu Dao said that he had not. The doctor told Lu Dao that the current personality would disappear along with the toxins, including all memories from this period. To ensure the accuracy of the results, the doctor wanted to give Lu Dao another physical examination. Lu Dao, who was good at catching key points, still had some doubts about the word disappear. The doctor explained that it was an inevitable force, and the toxin in Lu Dao had characteristics of both the werewolf and insect tribes. They needed to extract more data from Lu Dao and record the changes in the toxins to prevent them from joining forces against humans. Lu Dao was their only sample at the moment. Cheng Jin returned home with 2 suitcases. Cheng Cheng immediately went up to greet her and asked her to hand over the suitcases. Cheng Jin handed the suitcases to Cheng Cheng and thanked it, and then asked if Lu Dao had come back. Cheng Cheng told her that Lu Dao was on the 2nd floor. Cheng Jin wondered what Lu Dao was doing on the 2nd floor, to which Cheng Cheng knew nothing. Cheng Jin planned to go upstairs to find Lu Dao, but soon realized that if Lu Dao was on the 2nd floor, he would only be in the guest bedroom where he used to stay. She then slowed her pace, thinking back to when she herself walked up the stairs with anticipation, excitement, and a bit of panic. Every time she opened the door, she hoped that she could get along better with Lu Dao, that he would speak just a bit more to her. But all she received was his indifferent attitude. He stood at the door of Lu Dao's room, yet hesitated to knock. He was somewhat afraid to face the past Lu Dao, but when he looked up, he realized the Lu Dao before him was looking at him tenderly. Tears involuntarily spilled from his eyes. Lu Dao pulled him into an embrace and asked what was wrong, if he had been wronged. He wiped his tears, realizing that the Lu Dao before him was still the one who would care for and love him, In front of him, Lu Dao was still the same person who cared for him, loved him, and held him tightly. He raised his hand to touch Lu Dao's face, explaining that he was fine, and asked what Lu Dao was doing here. Lu Dao held Cheng Jin's hand, expressing that he wanted to see the things left behind from before, but there were very few things. He went straight to the bedside, took out a box of small umbrellas from the drawer, and said that this was all he found. Cheng Jin was a bit flustered and asked why he took out the small umbrellas. Lu Dao sat on the edge of the bed, shook the box in his hand, looked at his shy little wife, and said, "Who bought this?" "Ah, don't say it." Cheng Jin, embarrassed, lunged over, only to bump into his arms and be held by the waist by the man. Sitting on his lap, the room became warm and ambiguous. The two were so close that their breaths almost mingled. In the end, it was unclear who started it, but it quickly developed into a passionate kiss. Lu Dao pressed his little wife onto the bed. Their eyes met and their breathing was chaotic. Lu Dao rubbed his nose against his and whispered, "Was I not good to you before?" Cheng Jin was almost certain that his husband knew about their past, and with a heart full of bitterness, he whispered, "It was my fault. I was too bad-tempered before." Lu Dao laughed and said, "Then I'm really lucky, meeting you at your best." Cheng Jin didn't quite understand his words. He had already decided to spend these 4 months well and then leave this planet with his father and brother, cherishing the beautiful memories of this time for the rest of his life. Looking at Lu Dao who was approaching, Cheng Jin whispered, "I'm also very lucky to have met you." After hearing this, Lu Dao couldn't hold back anymore and kissed Cheng Jin deeply, causing Cheng Jin to moan continuously. Cheng Jin was gasping for breath when Lu Dao finally let him go. Jealously, Lu Dao asked, "Did we do this often? I mean, before I lost my memory?" Cheng Jin shook his head hastily. Not often back then. Lu Dao thought to himself that he was already jealous of his pre-amnesia self. Now knowing he is a second personality, he can't see his past self and his present self as the same person. Strictly speaking, they are the same person. Driven mad by jealousy, Lu Dao couldn't help but demand more from Cheng Jin. Cheng Jin's suppressed moans changed in tone, mixed with pleasure, and he couldn't help but hold Lu Dao a bit tighter. Lu Dao regretted that his former self had never paid attention to Cheng Jin's life, not even cooking him a decent meal. So, he took the initiative to cook, wanting to make a meal for him by hand. Lu Dao felt guilty that his former self had never properly accompanied Cheng Jin to watch a movie he liked. So, he decided to watch movies all night with Cheng Jin until Cheng Jin fell into a deep sleep. Besides, Lu Dao was also keen on buying Cheng Jin various beautiful dresses. Taking out a dress, Lu Dao said, "Baby, try this on for me." Cheng Jin's eyes nearly popped out, his face instantly flushed red, and he whispered, I am not a girl. But I want to see. Should I find a girl to wear it for me?" Cheng Jin immediately grabbed the dress and shook his head desperately, "No. I'll wear it now." His figure was indeed delicate, and he looked cute in women's clothes, but after all, he was 25 years old. Such childish attire made Cheng Jin feel ashamed and embarrassed, but his husband clearly loved it. The general's eyes were filled with fascination, and he gently said, "Baby, you're so cute." As soon as he finished speaking, he pounced on Cheng Jin. Those dresses were ultimately torn apart and had to be thrown in the trash. Time always seems to pass especially quickly in sweet moments, and the time for their unspoken farewell is drawing nearer. The next day, Cheng Jin visited Yu Kui's home as promised to deliver the socks sewn at the Orange Blossom party. Yu Kui smiled and said, "Thank you, little Cheng Jin. Not only did you remember the socks, but you also made a special trip to deliver them." "You're welcome, it's what I should do. But why do I feel like your knitting technique is so similar to the blanket my sister had on her lap that day?" "Did you knit it?" Cheng Jin asked. Cheng Jin nodded and nervously said, "Please don't tell grandmother. If she knew I knitted it, she definitely wouldn't want to use it." Yu Kui laughed and said, "She didn't know before and thought Xiao Dao bought it for her. Later, I had her compare the socks and the blanket, and she believed it. My sister wasn't angry at the time." Cheng Jin was surprised and said, "Grandmother, wasn't angry?" Yu Kui held Cheng Jin's hand and gently said, "Her opinion of you seems to have changed. Maybe the time has come for you to mend your relationship. Look at how Xiao Dao treats you now, your relationship should be good too. Don't lose heart, what belongs to you, you're slowly holding on to it." At this moment, Yu Kui stood up, took an invitation, and said, "Next month, there will be a small family banquet. I will invite my sister to come. This is a good opportunity for you to reconcile with her." Cheng Jin hurriedly said, "Of course, I hope she can forgive me. But Grandma, you see, the mistakes our family made before were too serious. Dad deliberately cancelled grandmother's surgery to help me. She originally had a chance to walk on her own legs." Thinking of this, Cheng Jin lowered his head in guilt. Yu Kui sighed lightly and said, "I know. My sister is too strong-willed. When she encountered a cosmic storm while traveling years ago, it caused her legs to be shattered. Even though she had financial difficulties, she didn't tell her family, and even refused our visits. So it's all my fault, if our family wasn't so overbearing. Yu Si Kui handed the invitation to Cheng Jin and said with a smile, after all, so many years have passed. As long as you're willing to come, I can put in a good word for you. Cheng Jin replied happily, of course I'm willing. Thank you. This past month, Lu Dao seemed a bit busy. Cheng Jin felt a bit uneasy and asked, have you been going to the military hospital a bit too often lately? Is there something wrong with your health? Lu Dao pinched his face and smiled. What do you think could be wrong with me? My kidneys? Cheng Jin blushed with embarrassment, his worry turning into shyness. It's not impossible, after all, we've been doing it too frequently lately. Lu Dao leaned in, do you need me to prove it? After confirming there was nothing wrong, Cheng Jin felt relieved and shyly urged, alright, you better get going. Finally, the day of the Yu Si family banquet arrived. I wonder if I'll have a chance to apologize to grandmother today. Cheng Jin nervously rang the doorbell. The steward of the Si family led him into the banquet hall. Cheng Jin saw his grandmother and immediately became nervous, forgetting all the words he had prepared. It was Si Kui who waved at him. Little Cheng Jin, you're here, come and sit. Cheng Jin breathed a sigh of relief and said, this is a little token from me, and some cookies I baked myself. If you don't mind, please have a taste. Thank you, little Cheng Jin. Cheng Jin glanced at Yan Qi, feeling a bit puzzled. Yan Shaoqi? Why is he here? Seeing that sister had finished eating, Si Kui said, little Cheng Jin, the weather is nice today. Why don't you push sister out to enjoy the sun? After a while, Ah Shu can also take Shaoqi out for a walk. Cheng Jin quickly stood up and said, sure. Looking at his grandmother, somewhat righteously, grandmother, I'll push you. After walking a short distance, Cheng Jin finally gathered the courage to speak. Grandmother, are you cold? I'm not cold. I'm knitting a hat, scarf, and gloves for you. When they're done, I'll have Lu Dao send them to you. I chose cashmere yarn, so they'll definitely keep you warm when you go out. Grandmother was silent for a moment and said, you don't need to flatter me like this. Cheng Jin said with a sour tone, I'm not flattering you. I just feel sorry for you and have always wanted to apologize. If it weren't for my willfulness back then, you wouldn't be like this now. Grandmother, I know no matter how many times I say it, it won't help, but I still want to say I'm sorry. Grandmother, who rarely smiled and always looked serious, said after seeing Cheng Jin in tears, there's no need for you to cry in front of me. Cheng Jin quickly wiped away his tears. I'm sorry, I just couldn't help it. Grandmother sighed, I acknowledge you are now changing for the better, but what you did back then not only hurt me but also hurt my grandson. The rift between you two cannot be mended just by my forgiveness. Cheng Jingxin felt a pang in her heart and tears kept falling. I know, I came to apologize not just for Lu Dao, but because I truly realized my own mistakes. Grandmother, I'm sorry. Cheng Jingxin bowed deeply to her grandmother, who turned her head away. After a long time, she finally said, I forgive you. Upon hearing this, Cheng Jingxin felt the long-carried burden lift, and moved. She said, Grandmother, you are spoiled, willful, extravagant. None of these traits seem fitting for a good partner. Moreover, you are ruthless in achieving your goals and do not seem serious at all. I have seen the news about you, and none of it makes me think well of you. I even feel that your desire to marry my grandson was no different from wanting a beautiful piece of jewelry. The only difference is that one is a person and the other is an object. The most infuriating thing is that you used me to coerce him. How can I possibly like you? Cheng Jingxin, her face flushed with shame, said, I'm sorry. But over the years, I've seen your change. During the 7 years Lu Dao distanced himself from you, you didn't abandon him. The more aristocratic the marriage, the more it is considered for benefits. If Lu Dao were just an ordinary person, without any prestigious background, no matter how outstanding or handsome he might be, no aristocrat would want to marry him. At least you pursued him just for his looks, not his status, because you truly liked him. Cheng Jingxin, her face turning even redder, whispered, I didn't like him just for his looks. What else can you see at first sight besides looks? Grandmother spoke bluntly, but her tone wasn't as cold as before. You had the courage to come apologize to me today, which shows me you're really trying to change. Why should I make things difficult for you? After hearing this, Cheng Jin couldn't hold back her tears and cried, Thank you. Thank you so much. After a while, grandmother said, All right, push me back. Okay. Yu Si Shu and Yan Qi were walking and saw grandmother Yu Si and Cheng Jin. They smiled and greeted, Are you heading back? As they spoke, the couple got closer. Yu Si Shu was very beautiful, looking particularly pleasing in the sunlight. Paired with Yan Qi, they seemed quite well matched. Yu Si Shu smiled and said, We were just about to head back too. Grandmother, let me push you back. How's your matchmaking with Yan Qi going? Do you feel compatible? Take it slow, we just met. Hearing this, Cheng Jin glanced at Yan Qi and thought, matchmaking? Yan Xiaoqi and Yusi Shu? Cheng Jin slowed her pace secretly. Thinking about how Yan Qi had mocked her so many times, she finally had a chance to retaliate. She quickly said, congratulations, Yan Xiaoqi, finally getting rid of your single status. Yan Qi's initially indifferent expression turned cold instantly upon hearing this, with a terrifying gleam in his eyes. He said, don't tell your brother about today. Cheng Jin was stunned. Why couldn't she tell her brother about his matchmaking? It had nothing to do with her brother at all. Then Yan Qi said, I have something to do, I'm leaving first. Let them know. Watching his gradually receding figure, Cheng Jin thought, what's with Yan Qi's inexplicable behavior again? Meanwhile, at the military hospital, Lu Dao looked at the report. Toxin cleared 62%, research progress 35%. Vital signs normal, memory stable. It's expected that the toxin will be completely eliminated from the body in 3 months. Lu Dao emerged from the inspection chamber and Dr. Jerson smiled at him, saying, congratulations, Admiral. You are one step closer to a full recovery. Lu Dao looked into his sincere eyes but couldn't muster a smile. Everyone thinks that the second personality triggered by the toxin is just an illness, and no one thinks it's a bad thing that the current me will disappear in a few months, except for myself. Lu Dao felt an indescribable discomfort. After leaving the military hospital, Lu Dao went to the military headquarters. General Moss inquired about the research data. As he reviewed the data, he said, you are now the hope of the peace faction. Whether or not the weapon can be successfully developed to clear it all depends on the changes in the toxin in your body. Yes, I will fully cooperate, Lu Dao replied as General Moss patted his shoulder, smiling. It all depends on the changes in the toxin in your body, he said. Yes, I will fully cooperate, as General Moss patted Lu Dao's shoulder, smiling. General Moss patted Lu Dao on the shoulder and smiled. There's really no need to worry too much. Your current symptoms are no different from amnesia. It's just that you've forgotten your past, and in the future, you might forget this period of time as well. Well, if there's nothing else, I'll head back first. Of course, you can go too. The next data submission should be in half a month. Maybe you can take a trip to another planet during this time. Change your mood. General Moss spoke warmly with a smile. Take your partner with you. Finally, Lu Dao smiled. That's exactly what I've been thinking. I want to create as many memories as possible with Xiao Jin so I won't have any regrets. After that, Lu Dao immediately started making arrangements. Once everything was in order, Lu Dao, holding 2 tickets, went to find Cheng Jin and smiled. Can you spare a week for me? You love honeyed grapes and have never been on interstellar travel. So, would you like to go to the Rizhao planet with me and… Before Lu Dao could finish, Cheng Jin eagerly said, sure. Cheng Jin's face was filled with joy as she threw herself into Lu Dao's arms. Lu Dao caught Cheng Jin in his arms, and seeing her happiness, he couldn't help but feel joyful himself and laughed. Are you that excited? Yeah, I've never been to an exoplanet, of course, I'm excited, Cheng Jin said, shyly and bashfully looking at him, and besides, I'm going with my husband. Lu Dao lifted Cheng Jin in his arms, delighted, then let's go. After speaking, he pressed his nose to Cheng Jin's, his eyes full of love for his adorable wife, and laughed. Husband will take you to pack our bags. Lu Dao picked up a white suit and asked, does this look good? Cheng Jin replied happily, it looks nice. Suddenly, Lu Dao picked up a pair of black pants, approached Cheng Jin with a mischievous smile, and said, what about these? Cheng Jin blushed and pushed him away playfully. Ah, not those. Put this. Also pack this. Lu Dao continued packing the luggage, looking forward to the upcoming journey. The journey takes a total of 12 hours, including the time in folded space. Otherwise, a one-way trip would take half a month. Wow, that's far, Cheng Jin exclaimed. So are we about to enter folded space? Lu Dao checked the time. 5 more minutes. Cheng Jin clung to Lu Dao's arm and nervously asked, will entering it make us feel dizzy? Lu Dao looked calm, but his words startled Cheng Jin. Yes, not only dizziness, but there might also be unexpected disappearances. Disappear? What do we do? He stuttered in fear. What do we do? Lu Dao stood up, smiled, and said, don't worry. The escape manual teaches us self-rescue positions in case of an emergency. First, hug a stable object. Your husband is currently the most stable. Cheng Jin shyly hugged his husband. What next? Lu Dao couldn't hide his smile and continued, to reduce the impact on the spine, you need to lift your feet. After hearing this, Cheng Jin immediately lifted his heels. Lu Dao took the opportunity to hold Cheng Jin and kissed him. After letting go of Cheng Jin, he hadn't realized what had happened. After a little while, Cheng Jin finally came to his senses. He angrily pounced on Lu Dao. Ah, so you did it on purpose. Lu Dao smiled at Cheng Jin's cute angry look, hugged him, sat down, kissed his forehead, and said, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Cheng Jin puffed his cheeks in anger. He had been listening so seriously, but in the end, it was actually. Lu Dao's smile gradually faded, and he said, however, if something happens in folded space, we indeed might disappear. We will cease to exist in this world. Lu Dao touched his head and comforted, it's okay, don't worry too much. It's still very safe. Lu Dao picked up the remote and said, let's watch TV. Yeah, sure. After Lu Dao chose a channel, an image appeared on the screen. The male and female leads were kissing passionately, seemingly inseparable. Jing Chen shuddered and quickly said, change the channel, quick. He made a move to grab the remote. Lu Dao held Jing Chen tightly and said in a deep voice, no, we're watching this. Lu Dao raised his hand, keeping the remote out of Jing Chen's reach, and pulled Jing Chen to sit on his lap. Didn't I tell you? Couple seats enjoy special services. His warm hand had already moved onto Jing Chen's body. By dinner time, Lu Dao was carefully feeding Jing Chen, gently wiping his mouth, and contentedly doing anything for him. It was Jing Chen's first trip and he was so excited he couldn't sleep, holding Lu Dao's hand tightly and excitedly looking at the scenery outside the window. After arriving at the station, Jing Chen felt a blast of hot air as he completely stepped out of the station. The scene before him left him dumbfounded. It was completely different from what he had imagined. He instinctively grabbed his husband's wrist, somewhat panicked. Honey, why is it like this here? Did we come to the wrong place? Lu Dao squeezed his palm and explained. Part of the land on Sunlight Planet is barren and not suitable for planting, so it's used for public spaces. Soon, a local approached and asked, where are you headed? Need a ride? Lu Dao didn't haggle and said, Sunny Hotel. The other person immediately smiled happily and enthusiastically helped them with their luggage. Along the way, Jing Chen kept looking out the window until he noticed the scenery changing and began to feel excited. After another 10 minutes, a vineyard stretching as far as the eye could see appeared before them. Jing Chen cheered, honey, it's honey grapes. It was his first time seeing honey grapes hanging on the vines, bunch after bunch, dark purple and shiny. From afar, they seemed to emit an enticing fragrance. Lu Dao patted Cheng Jin's head with a smile. Little glutton, are you hungry? Seeing his eager look, the driver chuckled, if you want to eat, you can just pick some. I'll open the sunroof for you. Cheng Jin suddenly felt a bit embarrassed, thinking, oh no, have I embarrassed Lu Dao with my lack of sophistication? After the driver opened the sunroof, Lu Dao lifted Cheng Jin up with a laugh and said, go ahead and pick. Lu Dao watched Cheng Jin picking grapes with pleasure, and Cheng Jin happily picked a bunch of grapes. Suddenly, a loud bang came from the distance, followed by thick smoke. Lu Dao reflexively pushed Cheng Jin back into the car, and Cheng Jin asked softly in fright, what's happening? Lu Dao looked very serious and said, there might be a riot. It was already evening when we reached the Sunny Hotel, and Lu Dao hurried to check in. Thinking of the riot during the day, Cheng Jin asked worriedly, is it serious? Why did the riot happen? The people of Sunlight Planet all follow the Celestial Church, which is divided into the Eastern and Western factions. They used to alternate in power, but in the past year, they have refused to switch power due to some conflicts, so it has led to this situation. Is this conflict serious? Not really. Don't worry, this hotel is still safe. It's just that we can't go out for sightseeing in the next few days. Cheng Jin breathed a sigh of relief quietly, but still felt a bit uneasy. Aren't you going to intervene? The Imperial Planet has sent troops to handle it. I'm on vacation, there's no need for me to step in. Hearing his response, Cheng Jin felt a bit strange, thinking, from what I know of Lu Dao, he's never been one to stand by idly. Even if it's something outside his duties, he would decisively help. It must be not that serious, right? When they reached the door of the room, Lu Dao saw that he hadn't moved. He pinched his cheek and laughed, you've been tired all day, let's rest early tonight. Wow, what a great room. Cheng Jin couldn't help but exclaim as Lu Dao had booked a suite and they entered the room. As soon as he saw the big bed, Cheng Jin immediately threw himself on it. Such a comfortable bed, I don't feel so tired anymore. Lu Dao's palms suddenly touched Cheng Jin's skin, his fingers rubbing repeatedly around his waist. He said, it's a pity the temporary tattoo sticker from last time washed off. Cheng Jin blushed and whispered, that was, well, a one-time thing. Lu Dao stared at him, a flame seemingly hidden in his eyes. How about we make it a permanent one? Okay. Cheng Jin was stunned for a moment. What, be my personal exclusive? Let your husband mark you? Is that okay? Lu Dao kissed him on the lips, full of possessiveness. But, I'm afraid of pain. Please, baby Tilda. Seeing Lu Dao's pitiful look, Cheng Jin overcame his fear and whispered, okay. Lu Dao smiled, won't you regret it? Just wait, baby Tilda. After that, he got up to rummage through his suitcase. Chang Jin asked in shock, a gift? You had it prepared already? Seeing the tattoo kit Lu Dao took out, he exclaimed, are you going to do it yourself? Who else? Do you think I'd let someone else see your body? Lu Dao stared at him as if he wanted to devour him whole. Chang Jin shook his head with a blush and kissed him appeasingly. But do you know how to? Lu Dao assured with a confident smile, don't worry, I secretly learned it a long time ago. Come on, lift up your clothes and lie down obediently. Chang Jin nervously turned over, lifting his shirt, somewhat worried as he anxiously awaited Lu Dao's next move. Lu Dao applied a numbing plant from the daylight star on Chang Jin's lower back, which could numb the area. The tattooing process wasn't too painful. Chang Jin eventually fell asleep while lying down, not knowing how much time had passed before a slight sting woke him up. After waking up, the stinging sensation grew stronger. Chang Jin couldn't help but cry out from the pain. Lu Dao gently kissed away Chang Jin's tears, whispering softly, good boy tilde baby tilde just bear with it a little longer and it will be over. Chang Jin bit his lip to endure it. Lu Dao seriously tattooed Chang Jin, whispering softly, just a little longer, good baby. I can endure it, Chang Jin thought. This is Lu Dao's mark for me. This mark will follow me for a lifetime. A sweet feeling emerged in his heart. The stinging pain on his lower back made Chang Jin hug the pillow tightly to distract himself. After nearly 10 minutes, he finally heard Lu Dao say it was done. His whole body relaxed instantly. The tattoo was near the hip, on the lower back close to the hip line. The characters were small but clearly visible, contrasting with Chang Jin's fair skin, making it even more eye-catching. Looking at his exclusive mark, Lu Dao's eyes were filled with naked desire. It's beautiful, Lu Dao couldn't help but say. He leaned down to kiss him, seriously saying, after marking you, you're not allowed to leave me. Chang Jin whispered, I won't. I will always be yours. Lu Dao chuckled softly, kissing his lips, what are you to me? Chang Jin, shy but still speaking, said, forever your personal exclusive. 5 days later, the riot on the Sunlight Planet didn't cause much conflict, so the two went to the market. Chang Jin used to visit the most prosperous shopping streets, selling almost all expensive luxury goods. So when he saw the bustling ordinary market, Chang Jin found it very novel and excitedly said, I didn't know there was a market selling these things near the hotel. This is my first time seeing it. Originally, this place wasn't developed. It was Yan Qi's hotel that boosted the surrounding economic development. He registered the Sunny trademark and opened chain stores worldwide. Chang Jin couldn't help but quietly complain, so Sunny was founded by Yan Qi. How much does he love the sun? Lu Dao patted Chang Jin's hair, smiling, all right, let's hurry and shop. The two headed towards the bustling market. The road was full of people, some shouting and selling, some selecting and buying, with a dazzling array of goods. While strolling, Lu Dao would deliberately tease him, lifting things high so he couldn't reach them, making Chang Jin chase after Lu Dao to hit him. When he saw Lu Dao tying a broom as a sword on his waist and waving another broom back and forth like a warrior, Chang Jin secretly opened the light screen to take a picture. When Lu Dao noticed, Chang Jin quickly ran away with a laugh. He continued to explore with curiosity. He was curiously wandering around. Lu Dao was obviously also interested in the market, even stopping at a stall selling knives. Chang Jin was never interested in weapons, so he said, I'll go ahead and take a look. Lu Dao nodded and reminded, don't go too far. Chang Jin waved his wrist happily and said, no worries, I have the light screen sharing my location. Chang Jin excitedly looked around and soon found a stall that interested him. It was a stall selling knitted goods. The knitted items on display were all handmade, with some knitting techniques that Chang Jin couldn't understand. Curious, Chang Jin asked, hello, how are these beautiful patterns made? Chang Jin's eyes lit up, really? Thank you so much. Just as he was about to take them, he heard a commotion and terrified screams not far away. Before Chang Jin could react, he heard an explosion, which turned his face pale. The middle-aged woman reacted quickly, hurriedly packing up her stall, saying, the Eastern faction is here. Young master, you should leave quickly, it's going to get chaotic here. Chang Jin hadn't fully reacted yet. The middle-aged woman had already packed most of her things and ran into the crowd. When another explosion sounded, he remembered to run, but the crowd was chaotic, and he didn't know where to hide. At this moment, his wrist vibrated. He frantically pressed the call button. Xiao Jin, where are you? I'm at. Chang Jin looked at the chaotic crowd, unable to find his direction. Just as he was about to answer, the indicator light on his wrist went out, and the signal was lost. Chang Jin thought his light screen was broken and was about to call back when someone bumped into him, causing him to almost fall. Chang Jin was swept away by the crowd, moving towards a certain direction but unable to get out. The angry expressions on the faces around him frightened Chang Jin even more. He was carried forward by the crowd for over 10 meters and saw a scene of blood, scaring him into running in panic. "Excuse me, please let me through." "Lu Dao, where are you? I'm so scared." Cheng Jin was forced into the battlefield, where both sides were fiercely fighting, not caring if innocents were caught in the crossfire. At this moment, Cheng Jin bumped into someone. The person, seeing Cheng Jin, didn't care who he was and raised a knife, ready to strike down at Cheng Jin. As Cheng Jin saw the blade about to fall on his head, he desperately wanted to escape, but his legs felt as if they were filled with lead and he couldn't move them at all. He could only close his eyes and wait for death. In that instant, his mind went blank. The only person he thought of was Lu Dao. The anticipated pain did not come. Instead, his body was suddenly pulled away. When Cheng Jin opened his eyes, he saw the person half embracing him was Lu Dao. Having narrowly escaped death, Cheng Jin let out a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to speak, Lu Dao had already kicked away 2 people and said, "Let's get out of here fast." The crowd that Cheng Jin couldn't break through before was quickly cleared by Lu Dao, who swiftly led Cheng Jin to the edge of the area and said, "Let's head back to the hotel." Cheng Jin nodded hurriedly, ready to follow his husband, when suddenly his eyes fell on a figure. Subconsciously, he stopped in his tracks. Lu Dao noticed he wasn't following and looked back at him, asking, "What's wrong?" Cheng Jin, filled with fear, pointed to a figure not far away and said shakily, "Husband, isn't that the driver who brought us here? Can we go save him?" "Xiao Zhen, getting involved in the factional struggles of other planets is very dangerous," Lu Dao warned. Cheng Jin anxiously said, "But..." At that moment, Lu Dao suddenly felt a severe pain in his head. Lu Dao clutched his head in pain. "Husband, husband, Lu Dao." Seeing that Lu Dao did not respond, Cheng Jin gently shook him and called out his name anxiously. "What's wrong with you?" Cheng Jin asked, worriedly touching Lu Dao's head. Lu Dao closed his eyes for a moment and then said, I'm fine." While opening a light screen and quickly tapping something, he said, "I'll go rescue him, I'll be back in 2 minutes." He pushed Cheng Jin toward an empty stall and instructed, "Hide here, don't come out under any circumstances." "Okay." Cheng Jin nodded tremblingly and obediently hid under the wooden stall. Cheng Jin watched Lu Dao's figure gradually walk away, and he was momentarily stunned, thinking to herself, "Why does Lu Dao seem strange, as if something is not quite right?" Seeing her husband fighting with someone, she finally understands why Lu Dao is called the god of war. Cheng Jin didn't even see his movements. He was already by the driver's side and quickly finished the fight. Lu Dao suddenly hears a cry for help, turns his head, and his face changes dramatically, his eyes showing a hint of fear. Cheng Jin is being chased by a man wielding a knife about to strike him down. Cheng Jin runs desperately towards Lu Dao, but this time, Lu Dao is too far away to save him in time. Cheng Jin closes his eyes in despair. Lu Dao rushes over, elbows the attacker, and kicks him away. Holding Cheng Jin in his arms, Cheng Jin, already too frightened to move, keeps his eyes tightly shut until Lu Dao says it's all right. Cheng Jin opens his eyes and sees the beautifully shaped chin and the Adam's apple that deeply moves him. Cheng Jin can hardly imagine how Lu Dao managed to save him from such a distance. He couldn't even hear the shouting around him, his attention completely focused on the man. Lu Dao lifts Cheng Jin up and quickly moves forward. The severely injured driver follows behind. Perhaps seeing the driver with them, members of another faction also treat them as enemies, occasionally swinging knives at them. Lu Dao doesn't even blink, easily defeating these foes without slowing down. A few minutes later, they finally see the high-rise hotel. The shops along the road have closed their doors, and the hotel's security is ready with weapons. When they recognize Cheng Jin and Lu Dao as their guests, they open the bulletproof glass doors to let them in. Cheng Jin is placed on a sofa, about to speak, but Lu Dao has already turned to ask the manager to find someone to treat the driver. Lu Dao had turned around, instructing the person in charge to find someone to treat the driver while he quickly opened the light screen and started tapping. Soon, a voice came from the other side. "This is the contact point for the 72nd Planet Military Department. General Lu Dao, what are your instructions?" Lu Dao, with a cold light in his eyes and a strong aura, looked like the serious soldier he once was. He said, "Have the military personnel assemble and stand by, get the riot gear ready. I'll be there in 15 minutes, and then he promptly cut off the communication. Seeing him walking out, Cheng Jin hurriedly followed and grabbed the man's wrist. Lu Dao paused. When he turned around, his gaze was so cold that it made Cheng Jin shudder, thinking she saw the Lu Dao from before his amnesia. "What is it?" Cheng Jin asked softly. "Where are you going?" "To stop the riot." The hand she was holding was easily pulled away. Cheng Jin was stunned for a moment and said, "It's dangerous outside, you, stay." Dropping these words, Lu Dao walked out without looking back. Lu Dao's figure was filled with determination and decisiveness, seemingly completely unconcerned about the danger. Cheng Jin felt uneasy. His gaze just now was the same as before he lost his memory. Could it be that he has regained his memory? No, I'm probably overthinking. At that moment, the sound of a video request on the communicator on her wrist rang out. Oh no, it's my brother. He doesn't know I'm here. Cheng Jin quickly slapped her face to perk up. Act normal. Don't let brother find out. She then pressed the answer button, and the light screen lit up. Her brother, full of worry, asked, Jin, are you and Lu Dao on Rijiao planet? Cheng Jin's lie wasn't ready yet, and he had already guessed it. Shocked, she said, brother, how did you know? Cheng Shu frowned and said, why didn't you tell me when you went so far away? I heard there was a riot there, and it has endangered the place where you were staying. Are you alright? In the past, Cheng Jin would definitely have cried to her brother, but now she had grown more sensible and shook her head. We have been staying in our room and haven't gone out, so we haven't encountered anything. Just as she finished speaking, she heard a familiar laugh. Yan Qi appeared on the screen, adding, lying, I just saw you in the surveillance footage. Seeing Yan Qi, Cheng Jin was both surprised and confused. How are you with my brother? Did you tell him about this? But Cheng Shu didn't care about that and asked, my dear, tell your brother honestly, are you hurt? I'm not hurt, really not. Cheng Jin had to stand up and turn around in front of the screen. See, all in one piece. Cheng Shu visibly breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. Cheng Jin thought of Lu Dao's attitude just now, and felt a bit panicked, showing some sorrow on his face. Brother, do you think Lu Dao? Could he have regained his memory early? Brother, do you think Lu Dao shouldn't have regained his memory early, right? Cheng Shu paused for a moment before saying, why do you ask? The way you looked when you left just now, it seemed like before. Cheng Jin was in turmoil, his face filled with worry. He then comforted himself, it shouldn't be possible. Dr. Tian Qi has never misdiagnosed. He said 6 months, so it must be 6 months. There's still more than 2 months to go. A bit of confusion appeared in Cheng Jin's eyes again. Even if someone loses their memory, their personality shouldn't change drastically, right? Cheng Shu only had pessimistic thoughts in his mind, but facing his brother, he couldn't bear to say them, so he vaguely replied, probably. Cheng Jin's eyes lit up. Yes, it's the same person. The personality shouldn't change too much. Brother, after he lost his memory, he said he fell in love with me at first sight and treated me especially well. Could it be that he originally liked me too? Just didn't show it? Cheng Shu finally couldn't bear it and said, then why didn't he show it before? Or, did something happen between you two that makes you certain he likes you? Cheng Jin was taken aback by the question, and the small spark that had ignited was instantly extinguished. A look of sadness appeared on Cheng Jin's face, but he still wanted to struggle a bit. Maybe deep down, he has a little bit of affection for me. Otherwise, why would he treat me so well after losing his memory? He doesn't have his past memories, and you are accommodating to him in everything. Of course, his perception of you would be different. Cheng Jin was momentarily stunned, then smiled bitterly. Yes, in his memory, I haven't hurt him, haven't hurt his family. Cheng Shu couldn't bear to see his brother like this and interrupted his self-talk, saying, sweetheart, don't be sad. Just get through these 2 months. In the future, you'll definitely meet someone who genuinely likes you and have a real relationship. It's impossible. Cheng Jin shook his head and murmured, I've been marked by him, and my heart will be with him for the rest of my life. Enough about me, brother. You haven't told me how you ended up with Yan Xiaoqi? Before Cheng Shu could answer, Yan Qi had already started laughing, with a bit of pride in his smile. What do you think? Cheng Shu quickly said, due to certain reasons. I'm currently working for Yan Qi. Cheng Jin had no suspicions and said, oh, so that's how it is. Brother, you really have it rough, having to work for him. Yan Qi raised an eyebrow. What's wrong with working for me? It's still your brother's working hours now, hang up. With that, he hung up with a snap. My poor brother, having to endure such a bad temper. At this moment, in Yan Qi's office, Yan Qi pinned Cheng Shu against the desk and said, I told you I'd give you 10 minutes, it's already exceeded that. Are you not satisfied with just chatting with him? Do you want to fly over to see him immediately? Of course. Yan Qi was filled with jealousy, gripping Cheng Shu's chin and said, in your dreams. Yan Qi let go of his hand, somewhat exasperated. Don't forget, your time now belongs to me. You go where I tell you to go, do what I tell you to do. He said, pressing Cheng Shu down on the desk, his lower body against Cheng Shu's back. Feeling the change, Cheng Shu frantically said, don't do anything crazy. This is the office. When Yan Qi got close to Cheng Shu, even his breathing was a little erratic. From now on, don't call him dear. If I hear it again, I'll make sure you can't get out of bed. Cheng Shu said helplessly, why are you so childish? He's my brother. I don't care, your eyes and heart can only have me. I don't care, you can only have eyes and heart for me alone, she said, releasing all her emotions into Cheng Shu. Back in the room, Cheng Jin sat on the sofa waiting for Lu Dao to return. As he waited, he unknowingly fell asleep on the sofa. He was awakened by the sound of the door opening, confused and disoriented. When he saw that it was Lu Dao entering, he instantly became alert and happily called out, "Lu Dao." He rushed towards Lu Dao and hugged him tightly, asking, "You're finally back, are you hurt?" Smelling the familiar scent, Cheng Jin felt a surge of emotions and didn't notice that the body he was embracing was slightly stiff. "No injuries," Cheng Jin said, nearly crying with joy. That's good, that's good. I was so worried about you, afraid something might happen to you." "How did it go? Has the riot been resolved?" Lu Dao replied, "It's resolved." He lifted his head from Lu Dao's embrace, his eyes full of care. "I was terrified, I've never seen anything like that, it was too frightening." His voice trembled at the end, and he couldn't help but plead, "Husband, kiss me." Without waiting for Lu Dao's response, he pressed his lips against Lu Dao's. Like a wounded animal, he longed for the man's kiss. Unable to resist, he actively extended his tongue into the other's mouth. His lips and teeth were easily pried open by Cheng Jin, who kissed him briefly before being pushed away. Lu Dao's movement was slight, just enough to separate them a little. Cheng Jin asked in confusion, "What's wrong?" Lu Dao shook his head, saying, "I'm going to take a shower." Cheng Jin saw that he wasn't heading towards the bathroom and quickly said, "The bathroom is over there." Lu Dao paused, then continued towards the bedroom. His body somewhat stiff, he said, "I'm going to get some clothes." Seeing Lu Dao come out with a pair of underwear in hand, Cheng Jin finally couldn't suppress his own desire and hurried after him. Hugging the man from behind, Cheng Jin cheekily nuzzled his face against Lu Dao's back, cooing, "Could I shower with you? I'll wash your hair and scrub your back." Lu Dao paused for a moment before replying, "Okay." Cheng Jin was so delighted she almost jumped for joy. "I'll go run the water." The bathtub was huge, and Cheng Jin adjusted the water temperature before starting to fill it. Turning around, she noticed that Lu Dao was still standing there, not undressing. Cheng Jin asked, puzzled, "Aren't you taking your clothes off?" Cheng Jin asked doubtfully, "Aren't you taking your clothes off?" After hearing this, Lu Dao began to undress somewhat uncomfortably. Seeing her husband's exposed chest, Cheng Jin's face turned red. She lowered her head and began to undress as well. Glancing at her husband, she noticed he had finished undressing and was already showering under the spray. Cheng Jin asked, "Aren't we taking a bath?" "No, you go ahead." Cheng Jin suspected that her husband was either startled or upset about her earlier behavior, which might explain his strange and somewhat cold attitude. She quickly approached Lu Dao, looking rather pitiful, and asked, "Are you angry with me?" Lu Dao did not respond. Cheng Jin felt more convinced that he was angry and immediately hugged him. She felt his body stiffen but didn't take it to heart, explaining, "It was a sudden situation, I couldn't contact you or find you. I was pushed forward and suddenly dragged into the chaos." Remembering that scene, Cheng Jin trembled slightly. "These people are too frightening," Lu Dao said, "just make sure it doesn't happen again." Cheng Jin felt him hold her shoulder, seemingly wanting to pull away. Thinking to herself, "Is he still mad? There's nothing I can do." Without another thought, she crouched down. The frequent turmoil had long made Cheng Jin less timid. This was not the first time such a thing had happened. The sensation from below made Lu Dao's face change, his pupils shook. He reached out to push him away, but Cheng Jin lifted his head, his large eyes full of longing, and said, "I'm not afraid of dying, I'm just afraid of never seeing you again." After speaking, he continued to provoke, and Lu Dao's hand eventually slowed down. "I want you." This time, Lu Dao said nothing, gently stroking Cheng Jin's head, enjoying the moment. The water in the bathtub had long since overflowed. Cheng Jin hurried to turn off the tap and even bent down to test the water temperature. Just as Cheng Jin was about to stand up, his waist was seized by Lu Dao. The man had a stern face, his fingertips rubbing heavily over Cheng Jin's tattoo. Cheng Jin was puzzled and tried to turn around, but his waist was firmly held by the other person, unable to move at all. He could only twist his head with difficulty and say, What's wrong? Weren't you always excited when you saw it before?" Seeing Lu Dao suddenly step out of the bathtub, a flustered Cheng Jin hurriedly grabbed his hand and said, "Where are you going? We're not done yet, are we?" Then Lu Dao said, "I'm going to get the little blue box." Cheng Jin asked in confusion, "Haven't you been telling me not to use it lately?" He then shyly lowered his head and said, "Besides, the ones we brought have all been used up by you. We haven't had the chance to buy new ones." Hearing this, Lu Dao's face darkened a bit. He stepped back into the bathtub, pushed Cheng Jin down, and kissed him. Lu Dao was very aggressive today, continuously thrusting into Cheng Jin. Cheng Jin's pleas had no effect, and Lu Dao kept up the fierce attack. Chang Jin clung to the man's neck and couldn't help but whisper, "I really like you right now." Lu Dao asked, "How much do you like it?" Chang Jin joyfully said, "I like you more than the you from before." The next day, Chang Jin was woken by kisses. He had been tossed about so fiercely the day before that he didn't even know how he had fallen asleep. Chang Jin opened his eyes to see Lu Dao's handsome face, but his expression was filled with gloom. Chang Jin was a bit confused and asked, "What's wrong?" It was only when he spoke that he realized his voice was a bit hoarse. Lu Dao seemed even more annoyed, turning over and pinning him down. He bit lightly on his lips and reached his hand towards Chang Jin's body. Chang Jin's face turned red, and she gently pushed his chest, stammering, "Didn't you enjoy last night? Lu Dao's face darkened, his voice a bit cold. "How many times did we do it last night?" Chang Jin was somewhat puzzled. "Twice, don't you remember? Last night. You were so excited. I never thought you would be like that." Lu Dao threw off the quilt and said, "Let me see." Before Chang Jin could react, she was already positioned on her knees and elbows. Before Chang Jin could react, he was already positioned on his knees, blushing. He said, Don't do this." Lu Dao's eyes darkened, flames of desire uncontrollably springing forth. Chang Jin asked shyly, "Is it swollen?" "It is swollen," Lu Dao replied obscurely. Chang Jin, with a flushed face, said, "Then let me go." Today it's definitely not possible." After being released, Chang Jin got up. He pecked Lu Dao's lips appeasingly and said softly, "When it's better, can we continue?" Lu Dao stared at him, pinched his cheek, and muttered a, "Fine." Just then, the communicator rang. It was a message from Fei Li. Lu Dao glanced at Chang Jin sitting not far away, switched to encrypted mode, and then answered the call. Whatever Fei Li said, Lu Dao just responded with a terse, before cutting off the signal. Seeing his tense expression, Chang Jin grew worried again. "What's wrong? Is there an issue at the military department? Husband, did something you did on the Rizhao planet violate military laws?" Lu Dao hugged Chang Jin tightly, reassuring him, "It's nothing. Just a little matter I need to attend to." Relieved, Chang Jin did not pry further. In fact, he was overstepping already. He never used to dare ask about Lu Dao's work. After returning home, Lu Dao changed clothes, greeted him, and left. Fei Li had arrived in a spaceship and was waiting at the door. They went straight to the military hospital. Dr. Tian Chi pulled up a screen, turned to Lu Dao, and said, "A few days ago, I detected some abnormalities in your brain data." "General Lu Dao, did something unusual happen at that time?" "He came out the day before yesterday." Lu Dao didn't specify who, but they all knew who he meant. "What triggered it?" Lu Dao took a deep breath and slowly said, "The trigger was my despair. At that moment, I saw Xiao Jin in danger and realized I couldn't save him in time. He ran out, reoccupied the body, and with a difference of 0.01 seconds, he ran towards Xiao Jin at an impossible speed and saved him from the knife. It was then that I felt, I am ultimately no match for him. It wasn't until I woke up the next day that I came to my senses and reverted back to being myself. First, I felt relieved, filled with joy of regaining what I thought I had lost, but seeing the marks on his body, I felt jealous. Weren't we supposed to be indifferent and coldly abusive to the point where the partner wants a divorce? How could he do such a thing? It ended up turning into deep frustration and sadness. The inquiry was basically over. Lu Dao stood up, bid farewell to Dr. Tian Chi, and walked out with Fei Li, recalling Dr. Tian Chi's words in his mind. The data shows that the toxins in your brain are dissolving faster. Perhaps in less than 2 months, he will truly return. That soon? Lu Dao was somewhat overwhelmed. He walked into the deserted corridor and said to Fei Li, "What do you think of Chang Jin's relationship with the previous Lu Dao?" Hearing this question, Fei Li was not surprised and calmly said, "Have you finally couldn't help but ask?" Lu Dao said, "I didn't ask before not because I didn't care, but because I had already understood the situation quite well. Moreover, the Xiao Jin I see now has become very nice, gentle, polite, and he has worked hard, learning crafts, and he is also very cute." Thinking of his little wife, Lu Dao's tone involuntarily softened. Hearing the last few words, Fei Li's mouth twitched slightly but quickly returned to normal. "I think Mr. Cheng's changes must have also been noticed by the previous commander," said Lu Dao, squinting his eyes. "And then? He remained indifferent?" "Not exactly," Fei Li thought for a moment before saying, "In fact, initially, the Cheng family was to be expelled from the imperial planet. Of course, this did not include Mr. Cheng. When the previous commander heard about it, he went to the Minister of Criminal Law." Lu Dao raised his eyebrows. "The grandmother of the judiciary?" "Yes." Afterwards the case was reopened, considering they were first-time offenders and had made a certain contribution to the economy of the imperial planet, which led to the subsequent verdict. If old Mr. Cheng hadn't fallen ill, they would now be able to live decently. Lu Dao was still somewhat dissatisfied. About the illness, he didn't know? He found out later, continued Fei Li. However, I believe that for the commander, not kicking someone when they are down, especially someone who had once troubled and pressured him, is already quite ethical. And Mr. Cheng did not ask him for help. Lu Dao continued, I don't understand. Xiao Jin clearly loved him so much, enduring for 7 years. How could he suddenly think of divorce? I don't know about that either. Lu Dao frowned, his tone unhappy. Oh, then I understand. That guy. He wouldn't be cheating outside, would he? Mini drama. Lu Dao secretly watches his young wife from outside the door. Mr. Xing rests in the ward, and the young wife is also so tired that she lies down and falls asleep by the bed. Seeing Cheng Jin, he didn't want to tell himself anything. He was carrying everything alone, looking utterly exhausted. Lu Dao sighed deeply. He took off his coat and gently covered Cheng Jin with it. Perhaps love is always like this, full of misunderstandings and missed opportunities. Just as he was about to cover her, he saw Cheng Jin seem to be waking up. Panicked, Lu Dao grabbed his coat and quickly fled outside. Cheng Jin woke up looking confused, thinking, was someone just here? She turned her head towards the door, but it was empty. Lu Dao spoke harshly, that guy. He wouldn't be cheating outside, would he? Please don't speculate like this about yourself. The general's private life is very clean. He has never been intimate with anyone, let alone engaged in infidelity. Even if he is not a good partner, he is definitely a loyal one. Hearing this answer, if it weren't for his own capabilities being outstanding, Lu Dao would almost doubt whether the past Lu Dao was impotent. Lu Dao continued, then before I disappear, transfer all the balance in the account to Little Jin. That won't work, General. A large balance transfer requires the review of financial institutions and the process is lengthy and time-consuming. What if I want to set up a joint account with Little Jin? If the divorce application is approved, the joint account will also be automatically cancelled. If the divorce application is approved, the joint account will also be automatically cancelled. Based on Mr. Cheng's character, he wouldn't take the opportunity to transfer your assets. He certainly wouldn't. Cheng Jin smiled and said, the Rizhao planet is so much fun. I'll bring some specialty fruits over for you to try next time. When Lu Dao returned home, Cheng Jin was video chatting with his father. He wrapped his arms around Cheng Jin's waist. You're back. Yeah, I missed you so much even though it was just a short time apart. Lu Dao habitually gave Cheng Jin a kiss. The father-in-law awkwardly interjected, no need to bring too much. I can't eat much on my own. Send the rest to your brother. But my brother seems very busy and hasn't been responding to my messages. I don't even know what he's doing at Yan Shaoqi's place. Cheng Zheng's expression suddenly changed. Did you say, Yan Qi? His father's reaction left Cheng Jin puzzled. Yes. Cheng Zheng stared at him intently. When did he tell you this? Just a few days ago. At this point, Lu Dao suddenly reverted to his primary personality. The hand on Cheng Jin's waist slowly withdrew. Cheng Jin asked nervously, Dad, what's going on? What's the deal between my brother and Yan Qi? Could it be that Yan Qi isn't a good person and might be bullying my brother? After a long pause, Cheng Zheng sighed. It's nothing, sweetheart. Dad just wants to rest for a bit. Let's hang up for now. Cheng Zheng's previously cloudy eyes now looked even dimmer, and he appeared utterly despondent. Lu Dao noticed Cheng Zheng's state. He turned around, opened a light screen, and clicked on something. Cheng Jin could only say, remember to take your medicine on time every day and get enough rest. If you feel bored, go out for a walk. Cheng Zheng stared at him for a moment before saying, sweetheart, make sure to live a good life in the future. I will. I'm working really hard right now. During this time, Lu Dao had already used a hidden light screen to investigate the matter he didn't have time to look into earlier. He now had a basic understanding of the situation. The toxin caused the emergence of a secondary personality, which took control of his body, leaving him able to regain his original self only intermittently. These aren't the main issues. What concerns me more is the relationship between the secondary personality and Cheng Jin. They seem particularly close. After ending the video call, Cheng Jin sat on his husband's lap, reaching out to remove Lu Dao's clothes. Lu Dao couldn't help but ask, what are you doing? Helping you take off your coat. Don't you always ask me to help you take it off every time you come back? Lu Dao feigned, besides helping me take off my clothes, what else is there? Alright, there's also this. Cheng Jin deeply kissed Lu Dao, their lips and tongues entwining for a long time, until they parted for air. Suddenly, Cheng Jin said, wait for me outside the bedroom, I have a surprise for you. Lu Dao confirmed with an, okay, do you like it? Hearing the sound, Lu Dao looked up to see Cheng Jin's cool and sexy attire catching his eye. Lu Dao felt a twinge of jealousy and couldn't help but let out a light chuckle. You guys sure do have a variety of plays. Cheng Jin showed off his sexy back, his large eyes looking at Lu Dao. He coquettishly smiled and said, "How about some bunny play tonight?" While shaking the pom-poms on his hips, the flesh on his buttocks moved along with the white balls. Lu Dao stared at Cheng Jin for a while without speaking, then pushed him to the bed and wrapped him up tightly. Cheng Jin was stunned and said, You don't like it?" Lu Dao didn't answer, only saying, "Change back into your clothes," but his ears couldn't help turning red. Seeing that Lu Dao had no reaction, Cheng Jin dejectedly took off the bunny ears. At that moment, the robot came over and cheerfully said, "Master, welcome back. Cheng was just preparing dinner for the young master and didn't have the chance to greet you yet." "Hello, Cheng." Hearing this sentence, Cheng Jin stiffened. The amnesiac Lu Dao never spoke so formally to Cheng. Could it be that he had regained his memory? Cheng Jin was uneasy about whether Lu Dao had regained his memory. Cheng Jin nervously asked, "I want to know if my husband has regained his memory in advance?" Dr. Tian Chi stood up and said, "Mr. Cheng, I need to check on my patient." Tears uncontrollably welled up in his eyes. He almost couldn't stop himself from clicking it. He saw an injured child, a chimera named Ta, standing at the door. Cheng Jin smiled gently and said, "Don't be afraid. Big brother is not a bad person." Suddenly, the door was forcefully pushed open, and a team of guards stormed in. Without a word, a few people detained them. At this moment, Lu Dao came over, released Cheng Jin's hands and protected him behind his own body, saying, "Is there anything abnormal about my partner?" "General, your partner is suspected of conspiring to assassinate the Minister of General Affairs. We need to take him away for questioning." Cheng Jin whispered in defense, I don't know him. I just wanted to help him bandage the wound." Lu Dao glanced at him and said sternly, "Stay away from me. You are a suspect now and can't have close contact with me." Hearing this, Cheng Jin felt a pang in his heart. His expression was clearly the same as the Lu Dao of the past, cold, merciless, and filled with disgust towards me. "Let's talk outside," Lu Dao said as he walked out with the security team. Before leaving, he stealthily glanced at Cheng Jin. In the corridor, Lu Dao said, "I can assure you that there is nothing wrong with my partner. General, we only believe in what we see. The assassin this time is cunning and treacherous. And your partner might also pretend to be kind to catch you off guard. I have lived with him for 7 years, I understand him better than any of you. There's no need for your random speculations. He is a simple, kind person who knows gratitude. I believe every word my partner says. I guarantee with my military rank that if he has any problems, I will share the guilt with him." "Well, since the general has said so, we will first detain the chimera. We'll come back to you after we have the results from the surveillance investigation." As soon as Cheng Jin saw Lu Dao, he anxiously said, "Lu Dao, have you regained your memory?" Major General Mo Si laughed and said, "It's not like that. Lu Dao's situation is a bit special, but it's okay to tell you now. He was affected by the Zerg toxin, which triggered a second personality. The change in his temperament is due to this. However, the toxin is receding, and he has temporarily reverted to his primary personality. According to the data, the time for the secondary personality to completely disappear should be very close." Cheng Jin couldn't continue to listen to what he was saying and murmured, "Second personality." These words exploded in Cheng Jin's mind. He was so stunned that Lu Dao, who liked and tolerated me, would disappear. Seeing his strong reaction, Moss knew the shock was significant and smiled. "Lu Dao, perhaps you should explain this yourself. I'll head back first." Lu Dao saluted him, and only after Moss had left did he turn his gaze to his partner's face. Cheng Jin just happened to look back at him. The dependency in his eyes from before had faded. I originally thought that the amnesiac Lu Dao could fall for me because he had feelings for me too. Maybe after he recovered, I could have a real chance. Now, I fully understand that it's impossible. The reason why Lu Dao could love and spoil me while amnesiac is simply because he wasn't Lu Dao. A heart-wrenching discomfort surged, turning his face pale. He couldn't help but speak up, "You are the original. I don't have any memories of the time we spent together." Lu Dao suddenly spoke, his voice as indifferent as before, his face expressionless. It was impossible to recall that this face could once wear a bright smile. "So, don't burden me with his actions." The familiar feeling returned, and Cheng Jin had no more doubts. He slowly averted his gaze and after a long while, he whispered softly, "I won't." Lu Dao said, "Go back." Cheng Jin felt weak, unsure if it was due to the earlier fear or the truth revealed thereafter, so he walked very slowly. Lu Dao glanced at him and also slowed down, always maintaining a distance of 2 to 3 meters in front of him. Cheng Jin followed Lu Dao as if in a trance. When they reached the parking lot, Ferry was already waiting. The hatch of the Admiral's spacecraft was also open. Cheng Jin thought it was Ferry who would take him back, but unexpectedly, Lu Dao boarded first. Cheng Jin was taken aback for a moment. Then he lifted his foot to climb up, missed a step, and was about to fall forward. An arm steadied his waist firmly, pulling him into an embrace. The familiar scent came with a warm breath, and Cheng Jin instinctively wanted to smile, but as he looked up and met the other's indifferent expression, his rising smile stiffened. Before the other could let go, instead, he was the first to step back from the embrace, lowered his head and whispered, "Thank you." Lu Dao tightened his fingers and his gaze landed on his pale cheeks. He said, "Watch the road carefully," in a tone that was not too serious. Well, Cheng Jin was sitting in his seat, and the man sat beside him. Although they were sitting side by side, there was a distance as if they were strangers. It had always been like this. Lu Dao always coldly rejected my approach, no matter what I tried. But now, I don't feel aggrieved anymore. I really miss him. When the spacecraft landed in the courtyard of the house, Lu Dao was the first to step out. He stood on the ground, hesitated for a moment, then turned around and extended his hand towards Cheng Jin, who was still looking down. Lu Dao had never offered help to a partner before, feeling it unnecessary. After all, in his previous marriage, he did not want to see his partner more often. Each meeting only brought disappointment. It was only 2 years ago that he noticed the changes in Cheng Jin, the kind of change he had hoped for, so he also tried to ease their relationship. But due to his personality and heavy duties, he could not show much. This time, extending his hand was already a significant breakthrough for him. If it had been before, Cheng Jin could imagine how surprised and delighted he would have been to see this gesture. But now, he ignored it. Not that he intentionally ignored it, his mind was very chaotic at the moment. The truth had hit him hard, making it almost impossible for him to take in any external information. Even getting off the spacecraft was done mechanically, with only one thought in his mind. Don't fall, don't embarrass yourself in front of him again. When he reached the ground, Cheng Jin suddenly thought of something. He then lifted his head and saw Lu Dao again. Meeting his gaze, Lu Dao felt a sharp pain in his heart. Cheng Jin's eyes were not right, there was no light in them. Cheng Jin's eyes looked wrong, there was no light in them. He paused before saying, "Thank you for bringing me back." Without waiting for a response, he continued walking inside. The real Lu Dao would never like staying in this house. Every time he came back, it was obvious how reluctant he was. Thinking this, Cheng Jin walked a few steps and then heard footsteps following him. He asked, "Is there something else?" Cheng Jin stopped. "Where shall we talk?" Lu Dao paused for a moment. "The bedroom, perhaps." "Okay." Upon reaching the bedroom, Cheng Jin instinctively sat on the bed, hugging the blanket. Seeing Lu Dao still standing, he awkwardly said, "You can sit anywhere." Lu Dao found an armchair and sat down. Cheng Jin couldn't help but ask, when can he come back? A subtle jealousy arose in Lu Dao, but his tone was not intense, more like stating a fact, "I am your partner." Cheng Jin was still quietly sniffing the scent of Lu Dao left on the blanket. Hearing this, he said, "I don't understand. It started with amnesia, why has it turned into 2 personalities? Haven't you accepted it quite well? You can already distinguish between us now." Cheng Jin was stunned. His words sounded somewhat like an accusation? Even a bit jealous. But he quickly dismissed this guess. "No, Lu Dao doesn't love me, he wouldn't be jealous. We just said 2 more months. Why does it feel like there's no more time?" Hearing the loss in his voice, the jealousy in Lu Dao almost overwhelmed him. He coldly said, "Because I've decided to erase the derivative personality." Cheng Jin looked at him in shock, exclaiming, "Erase?" Lu Dao said, "Yes, the surgery is in 10 days. 10 days, just 10 days. And the Lu Dao who loves me will disappear forever, like bubbles in a dream." Cheng Jin sadly whispered, "Isn't there any way to keep him?" A strong sense of sourness filled his heart, even surprising himself with such intense jealousy. But he couldn't suppress those feelings. The general had given up the plan to leave. As if unable to control his steps, he walked up to Cheng Jin and asked in a low voice, "So you like him more?" Cheng Jin had his face buried in the blanket, his shoulders shaking, clearly crying. Thinking about whom he was crying for, Lu Dao felt very uncomfortable inside. He had once hoped Cheng Jin would move on quickly, but unexpectedly, once he really saw signs of Cheng Jin's transference of affection, he felt incredibly annoyed. He furrowed his brows, intending to reach out to Cheng Jin, but suddenly everything went dark. A strong consciousness was vying for control with him. He desperately tried to suppress it, but for some reason, despite his mental strength being far superior to the others, he was still defeated. Cheng Jin didn't hear the last question Lu Dao asked him. He was completely immersed in his own sorrow. The Lu Dao who would kiss me, hold me, pinch my cheek with a smile, and travel with me was about to disappear completely. Tears streamed down uncontrollably as Cheng Jin was about to succumb to his sobs. A warm palm touched the back of his neck, and another hand lifted his cheek. Through tear-blurred eyes, Cheng Jin saw the radiant smile of Lu Dao. His cheek was pinched, and the other person kissed away his tears, whispering, "Baby, why are you crying?" Lu Dao sat next to Cheng Jin and softly said, "Seeing you cry like this hurts me." The tears stopped abruptly. Cheng Jin was stunned, slightly unsure. The real Lu Dao would never coax me like this, so now, it must be the Lu Dao who loves me. After a moment of shock, Cheng Jin quickly wrapped his arms around the other tightly, wishing they could merge into one. His tears fell even more freely as Cheng Jin sobbed, "Husband, it's you." "My husband." Lu Dao sighed, and his smiling face slowly faded. "You already know?" Cheng Jin sniffled, responding with a plaintive hum, and buried his head in his neck. "I didn't want to know at all." "Not at all. Why? Why are you disappearing? Why?" Lu Dao forced a smile and kissed his forehead, saying, "Because I was never meant to exist." He was also greatly shocked when he first found out about this, looking at the time on the screen, wondering how long he could stay out this time. "I am just a part of Lu Dao's body, only brought out by a special coincidence. So, baby, don't be sad. You're not him." Cheng Jin cried even harder. "He would never love me, so if you're not him, I don't want you to disappear." Lu Dao smiled helplessly and cupped his face, saying, "We only have one body, or do you think it would be better if I took over completely? Making him disappear for good?" Cheng Jin was shocked by these words, subconsciously shaking his head, but then he stopped himself. However, Lu Dao saw through his thoughts, lowered his head with a smile, and kissed his lips. "So don't be sad. Be good, and let me accompany you a little longer." Cheng Jin was somewhat surprised. "You know about his plans to erase you?" He said the surgery would be in 10 days. "I know Cheng Jin is anxious. Did you agree to it?" "Why did you agree? He's so indifferent. How could he do such a thing?" "We could have waited another 2 months. We can't wait. His mental strength is getting stronger and I'm losing control of my body. Even if he doesn't choose surgery, I wouldn't be able to exist for much longer." Lu Dao pointed to his own head. "My existence is due to the toxins from the alien species. The less residual toxin there is, the weaker my existence becomes." Suddenly, Lu Dao clutched his head in discomfort, and Cheng Jin anxiously asked, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell somewhere?" Peeved. Lu Dao let out a light laugh. "Got scared? It's okay, I was just teasing you." Cheng Jin, annoyed and flustered, called him a jerk, unable to believe he could still laugh about it. She hit Lu Dao angrily, but thinking of Lu Dao, she couldn't stop herself from crying again. "You're about to disappear, even though it's only been a few short months. Your experiences and thoughts from these months will all cease to exist." Lu Dao gently wiped Cheng Jin's tears and softly held him, saying,